Greetings, folks. How do you do? My name is Dustin Cormier, and welcome to another episode of How to Rock Astrology. Today, we are going to be talking about Uranus in Taurus for the sign, the rising sign, the Lagna, the Ascendant of Leo. I've been excited to talk about this one because guess what? You guessed it. In case you couldn't tell by everything, I happen to be a Leo as well. So, my Leo friend, what are we dealing with now that Uranus is in Taurus? Well, I recommend, if you are interested, check out I've got a video in this series, and it's Uranus in Taurus, Uranus transiting Taurus. Look that up if you want to see the specifics of certain things related to what Taurus means, what Uranus means, and what them coming together means. Particularly to look for significant items in your chart that would make this extra significant. For example, Venus is my Atmakarka in Jaimini astrology. That's like an Indian, it's a Vedic astrology thing. There are many things that can describe deep important. Vedic people will understand what that means. Venus rules my chart, which means anything relating to Taurus and Libra can have a huge effect on my soul. So look in that video to see more of that kind of thing. But for all us Leos, this is a very important transit. I'm sure many of you have been probably waiting for this time. Uranus has gone through, come from the bottom of our chart. I'm only 28 years old, so Uranus was in Capricorn when I was born. So it has gone from Capricorn, it's now in a trine from its natal position. So many wonderful things are happening for me. But I digress. For all us Leos, Uranus has progressed in its transit up to the top of our charts, which means that we have been building on an energy of self-reflection and basically since, before 2011 was Uranus in Pisces. We were working in groups, just splaying ourselves into groups, trying different things. Then around 2011 to 2019-ish, Uranus was in Aries, and we were working through what is the impulse that comes through after dealing in all these various groups of our 8th house of Pisces. Aries is the 9th house of Leo. So while Uranus was transiting Aries, it probably transited your 9th house cusp somewhere along the line, and caused you to move, to have some kind of volition, where being in a group, it's like finding the richness that came from Uranus and Pisces. That richness involves glory. Feeling at a deep feeling level, while Uranus was in Aries, since 2011, we've all been feeling this compulsion to move and to find some kind of role where we can contribute constructively in the world. And this has a lot to do with what Leo is. Because Leo just loves to express, to be romantic, to just play, to be playful, but also intelligent and discerning in that play, in that theatrical drama, that performance. Now, all us Leos love to perform in some way or another. Your life probably is full of some kind of drama, and you're probably good at presentations. Like I'm doing a butt ton of YouTube videos because Leos are good at presentation, and they're good at having the confidence, the intelligent discernment to see the whole fixed, rigid pipe of a certain point that they're trying to express. Some kind of point, some kind of thing that you want to present. And you may have been, while Uranus was in Aries, 2011 till about now-ish, you've been feeling like you want to have some kind of presentation to give to the world. Some fixed, some rigid, some form through which you can fixate on as a set worldly role through which you can express this desire to experience the glory of contributing to something. Now, you didn't find that form, likely. Even if you've had a job all this time as a Leo, you might feel like there are things you can do in that job, even in your relationship, in your whole life, through which you can use this excitable, experimentative expression that Leo so loves to do. It's because Aries was in Uranus from 2011 again to 2018. Uranus was in Aries, rather, transiting our 9th house. The 9th house relates to Aries is our 9th house. So we deeply identify at the Aries level with getting through something, getting on top of something, getting on top of others in a certain way, but for the right purpose, ideally. We might have even felt that we've tried to engage ourselves in some kind of role, some kind of job, something that our boss gave us, some creative thing that's outside of our job, some kind of extracurricular activity. We've been wanting to do all these various things just for the sake of it, just experimenting with it and even enjoying the joy of unfolding ourselves in a meaningful way, which is more than just a group responsibility. That's what was going on when Uranus was in Pisces. We were coming into our capacity to have something to contribute to the world. Then it came into Aries. Now we're getting 2011 to 2018-ish, we were getting the taste of different ways that we can act in the world through which we can get this feeling of contributing. And it would have caused us to come up and down and up and down. We might have failed in a lot of these little explorations that we did in Aries. But what Aries was doing while Uranus was in Aries, no matter how much we fell, no matter what job happened, the final imprint that was coming through is that there is something within all these many ways that I'm trying to contribute. There is something inherent in all of it. There's something in myself that is inherent in all of these ways. It's like there's many changing forms that we've experienced in the 9th house, the many expressions, but there's something coming through, and it's a desire to keep going. That's what Uranus in Aries gave us. It's the 9th house feeling that no matter what happens, no matter how many times I fall, I'm going to come back up like almost Sagittarius sort of way and keep riding the waves of my failures and then my comeuppance again. Disappointments happen, depression might even happen, and you might have had to do some self-seeking and depression and even learning about your relationship to your ambition. You might have found that life was meaningless while Uranus was in Aries, and it forced you to confront that. And it's probably in a good way, especially if your Mars is well placed. Then it would have given you an open door to experiencing why it's good, why you just want to keep moving in life and progressing and doing something that draws you forward with inspiration. Now that Uranus is in Taurus, we may come to find that we are experiencing an ecstatic need. We're experiencing the limits of our raw ambition, where we've built upon this raw ambition when Uranus was coming into Aries, and it was pushing and drawing, almost like squeezing a pimple, drawing out this desire to act somehow in the world and to keep going. Now, we may find right now that we have all this ambition because it was doing the 9th house thing. It's built up to this curve, and now it's peaking in the 10th house right now, which is basically we need to find some constructive form in the world, some worldly form that actually stays fixed. And it will relate to this thing that we've been through all the different forms of the 9th house. We're starting to find which of all those different jobs that we did for our boss, different activities, different ways of relating and expressing, we're starting to find the ones which we really have deeply related with since we were young. Now that Uranus is in Taurus, there is a need to find some kind of role that's fixed that other people need and will hold the space for us for. It's a game of musical chairs going on. And we have ambitions, and there is something happening where there's a game of musical chairs playing, and we've done a lot of the part of pushing ourselves to keep playing the game. And now there's 7 chairs and 10 kids. And we're one of those 10 kids. And we want some kind of spot in the world, some kind of role that's going to validate our feeling of contributing. So we need to find some kind of spot in the world that relates to what we are, and that feels good and feels comfortable to relate in the world. So this is Uranus and Taurus, is in our 10th house. 10th house relates to worldly activity. And the 10th house from anything is where you work out the karma of the first house. In this case, the first house is Leo, of course. So Taurus is where we work out the karma through which we can get a grip on our first house. And this is very important for a Leo. Now, how do we work this karma out? It's by finding some kind of role, trying to hold on to it, and seeing what it takes energetically to hold on to some kind of role in the world. Right now, I'm doing these YouTube videos, and it's taking a lot out of me. I go and enjoy the pleasures of my lover. I have a girlfriend that I go and see, and like right now, our time is almost like kind of like split in half. Even I'm almost being selfish. I'm not pushing her away, but I'm pushing myself to get the most out of that I can with my relationship, and communicating with her, hoping that I have a natural, seductive, biological, the way I am is so abundantly attractive and securing for what she is, that we have a relationship bond which will allow me to enjoy her pleasures and to give and communicate with her, but to also take the excess energy of that enjoyment, recreational romance energy, and pour it into something that pushes me beyond my limits and even pushes those around me. Lots of people are used to me being with them and enjoying their time, and there's lots of things that I contribute to. My family, my friends, we're Leo risings, every time we go anywhere, it's like, oh, Dustin's here, wow, the long-haired, cool, hippie guy that's fun and exciting, it makes everybody excited. And I love to do that for people. But right now, with Uranus and Taurus, I feel like I want to push the boundaries of being seen by all these people and condense it push myself with it, to see how far I can push my ambitious energy into my career, which in a lot of ways right now represents this astrology stuff that I'm doing. I'm putting out a lot of material in my own little ventures, my own little avenues of creative expression, and pushing myself in that regard. And I've been pushing myself a lot. And there are times when I feel like I push myself too much. I don't, like before I do these videos, sometimes I'm like, gosh, there's just so much I have to talk about. There's so much that I write down and pre-plan, and it's just a lot. And, am I pushing myself too much? And sometimes I am. But this is the nature of the experiment that Uranus is bringing to us right now, which is that, I actually have a lot of things that validate my emotional experience, so that when I come on here and I tell you guys things, I have the conviction that I've been studying what I need to study. I have all the data that I need. And because especially we're going to talk about intimate relationships with people, I feel abundant with my girlfriend. I feel like all of my friends love me for who I am and what I naturally am. And this is an emotional validation, so that when I deliver any kind of message like this to you guys, it feels just like naturally. I've read the data. You can't expect me to be perfect, because, that's up to your own regard as somebody watching this astrologer. One thing I know for sure is that I've read my data, I know my presentation, and I am having a damn good time expressing it and getting better at my performance every time I do it. Whatever emotional blockages, whatever experience that I've had with my father telling me that I've got to have this or this or this role in the world, or that I've got to work hard, and like me dealing with my own creative expression in a way that comes from the abundant feeling that I'm valid and that I'm good, and that has having nothing to do with my father's pressure on me, but also a little bit. My father's pressure on me in my life has caused me to want to be responsible and dutiful in some way. But I've taken the Saturnian 10th house structure that my father has always tried to impress on me, and I'm transmuting it into something that fits who I've been comfortable with being all my life. And it's opening up channels for my creative spirit. But the only way for this to have happened is for me to have been dealing with jobs, 10th house arena. Because the 10th house, the arena of your job and of your authority, is intimately related for you as a Leo with Taurus, of course, which means your personal relationships with your father, with your mother, and with your lovers. Now, this is all very much coming from a man's consciousness. You know, if you're a woman, then we could say that the 10th house relates to your authority in the world, whatever you do. But even in your leadership role, in your personal relationship, where your lover needs to be able to lean on you, especially if you're a Leo rising, you need to feel like your expression, your direction for what you bring to the relationship is valid and has validation. And you need to work that out with your partner. Even knowing when submitting to your partner's direction is part of your direction. If you can, this is a huge thing for both sexes, for Leo. You have to be able to listen to your partner's direction. You have to be able to hear a direction from an authority above you and not take it personally, and then also delegate authority beneath you and not take it personally. This is very important for a Leo to be able to do, because if you want to delegate that authority, it has to be impersonal the whole way through, or else you won't be able to stand where you are. And this, with your partner, you know, sometimes your partner has an authority. Whether you consider yourself as a man to be the man in the relationship and the leader, there are times when your partner has valid realities and points, which you have to be able to listen to and genuinely listen to and communicate with. And you know, if you are a man and your partner is telling you that you don't listen enough, then you have to listen to that. But you also, on the other hand, if you're a man and you have a partner and your partner's finickiness and, you know, the way they are causes you to not trust your own leadership, your partner's a perfect vessel for communicating and working out your own capacity to be a leader wherever you have to be. And you can take that energy from your personal relationships and extend it towards your professional life and your career, where you have the authority to delegate a venture with several people, several of your subjects, and to know, just like you know that your lover trusts you, to trust yourself, to bring on some kind of venture that will be a mold in the world for people to see. And this will build a name for you. Ultimately, you know, like once Uranus comes back to Leo, that's when whatever you're building on now, you're going to take the Leonine expression that you learn now and bring it really into your own ventures and your own entrepreneurship, your own creative world, which is something you've always got going on because you're a Leo. But this opportunity right now, because Taurus is the 10th from your first. The 10th house is where we work out the karmas of things. So now you are learning through your personal relationship with your lover, which brings you the confidence to be able to delegate authority and manage direction in the world, and even to give resources, to give time, to commit your efforts to somebody's worldly slot where you can perform. And it's not going to be by your own creation. It's going to be a worldly need, because this is the nature of the 10th house on top of the chart. The reason everybody sees you doing what you're doing, especially right now, is because it's relevant to the world. It's one of 7 musical chairs that 3 of the children are not going to get a chance to sit on. You need to sit on a chair that's a delegated slot specific to the skills that you have the world is going to present you with this kind of opportunity. And specifically right now, however you express yourself in that slot, whether it's as a partner, whether it's as an employee, or whether it's as a leader of a company, a manager, whether it's as an entrepreneur, whatever slot is given to you is with your chance to shine based on a worldly need, on some kind of formula. That is where you are going to tap into your capacity to express this performance, this leonine real confidence that Leo gets through any kind of performance. Right now, Uranus is particularly expanding on the forms through which you can work out Leo. Because Taurus, the 10th house, resource management of things bigger than yourself, of your family, of your relationships, of your company, of your bosses. This is the form through which you can creatively express with authority and with creativity, with concise transmissions, things that aren't just blah, things that aren't just like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing and I'm just saying anything. That's more of a Mercury thing. No, you have a point, you have a singular directed focus on some worldly slot that you've found, and you need to have the confidence to deliver that message, because it's the confidence that you feel in your experience that is going to bring out this creativity. And it's this creativity that we as Leos want. But you're not going to get it if you don't have a good Taurus and if you don't have a good Venus. And if you can't deliver a message for something, for someone, for a company, or for any kind of thing in the world that involves what Leos love to work in, which is like Taurus things. You're working out the karma of what I am, how I express what I am, in contribution to all your houses. That's why this is important, because whatever stage you build for yourself right now is going to end up lending to the Leo creative expression that is good for everything in your chart, because you're a Leo. That flick of the wrist, that spin the wheel, Raggedy Man, that just enjoyment, that just this expression of enjoyment, of fearless, like, here's an idea, and I know this idea, and I've worked it out, and here's my spontaneous thoughts on it. You know, you as a Leo that can expertly, confidently express some kind of transmission from something to something, even as an artist, as a creator. All of this needs to happen first before you can tap into your own profound capacity of Leo. Leo needs to be worked out in the 10th house. It's going to involve other people. It's going to involve a field, a skill. Something is going to build on a skill which you can eventually transmute into your particular unique creative capacity. And it's going to be some skill. And you need to know that what Uranus, of course, is showing you is that you need to take a form which is going to take the energy of Uranus and Aries, which is like, I want to contribute somehow. That was Uranus and Aries. Taurus is going to say, what skill can I develop on that I enjoy, that is recreational, that is even fun to just experiment with? Because Taurus also rules the 3rd house for Leo. It's this hungry stimulation. It's part of the reason why Leo gets a sense of what they're good at, is because the 10th house, the world that they constantly involve themselves in, Taurus, is also ruled by the same Venus, which also rules Libra. And that's the 3rd house. The 3rd house and the 10th house are combined in Leo. And it's actually considered, Venus is not like Leo's best planet. It's actually a frustrating planet for Leo to deal with because of it also rules the 3rd house, being Libra. So there's a hunger that comes to Leo to find some kind of skill that they can use and express. And they're hungry to do that. And it's almost like, because of the 3rd house emphasis, it's mutable, it's spinning, and it's Gemini-ish. Libra is Gemini-ish. So like whenever Leo is anywhere interrelating with people, they constantly feel like, darn, all these skills I've been building on, like, could be better, could be different, could fit this person's desire. I'm a perfect fit for this person's plan, but they don't fit my plan. Leo might constantly be finding this, and it's this frustration that causes them to be constantly changing what they could be, what their skills are, what slot they could present to the world. And we're going to talk about why, like, that frustrating factor. But the fact is that Leo right now is finding some skill, some expertise that they could express, and it's going to be more than one because of the third house ruling Libra. Your Venus is causing you to enjoyably experiment right now with the different places that you could find some kind of worldly slot to get the most for the world through some expertise, to get the most out of the desire to keep coming up. Because again, Aries caused us, Uranus and Aries caused us to want to keep getting up. No matter how we fall, we keep getting up. And that takes a lot of energy. And it's almost like we've built up the momentum, but now there's a deep screaming desire to find some way to put that momentum to good use, to constructive use. Because we found what keeps us spinning in Aries in the 9th house. Now we need to find what is going to be something to make that up and comingness easier. Because it takes a lot to push ourselves up. We've been doing meditation and all the things in Aries, Uranus and Aries, and it takes energy to keep yourself inspired. We've kind of figured it out, but, you know, do you want to just keep doing yoga in order to get the ability to be ready to go? Do you want to go out and have sex with people in order to give yourself the inspiration to go and do what you want to do? Or do you want to find concise people who are meaningful and who you know is meaningful, and securing that, like a good solid partnership right now, is something you might be building on? Because this can give you the emotional validation that, this person loves me just for what I am, and my flick of the wrist capacity to do anything. Everything I do is attractive to this person. You're solidifying these things, these forms, these people, so that you can have the excess energy to funnel your energy into these specific goals and directives. Eventually, when Uranus gets into Gemini, you're going to find different ways of how to extract the most gains, 11th house things, from the forms that you find in Taurus, the skills that you find. And again, these skills are going to relate to the way that you've always expressed your creative, recreational enjoyment and intentions. Whether you're a writer, an artist, just a speaker, someone who's good with landscaping possibly, Leo's good at these kinds of things, and eventually making a business out of whatever you've been dealing with all this time, managing people, creatively managing people. All of this is coming through with Uranus tones. Finding some skill or a set of skills that you can not just skills, but also it's more about like jobs, things needed in the world, and also the things that secure your feeling that you can confidently do those things, including partnerships. All of these, you know, Uranus is bringing out opportunities to explore these things. Now, you might find right now in your life that you might have some kind of father complexes going on. You know, I got a good relationship with my father, but he doesn't always, he's always this firm sense of trying to keep my family pushing along with something that is validated in the world. And I have a good, deep relationship with my father, but I don't have anything yet in my life which can show him that I'm proud that I've done this thing. I've got money coming in from this thing. It's useful to people. It's not just pissing in the wind. It's not just me doing this fun, frilly astrology thing. It's bringing me money. It's helping our family. It's securing my resources. I'm securing my resources by this activity that I'm doing. And it's like I'm never going to satisfy my father in this regard until I do some kind of action. So I can't let my father's anticipation ruin the action that would give him the validation, even though the pressure's there. Now, the pressure is there. And how do I take on this pressure that's coming from my father? Part of the way that I do it is by having a sense that I am abundant and attractive based on what I inherently am. Now, I can't necessarily get a validation of that from my father. I could. I'm sure there's some people who just work with their dad, and this is a good time for you to just work with your father and vibe with them, and to show them that you do have expertise and that you are building on things that they can see are going to become some kind of abundant, like authority, that you are worth having authority, that your authority is validated, right? And some people might be working with their father in this regard. For those who are, if you are working with your father in any way right now, see how you can conscript the best of your father's intentions to make you into a great person. Get the best out of that while also seeing if you can bring your own individuality into that relationship. How do you bring something that relates to your enjoyment, relates to your particular expression of something that your father and you have been building on? You know, you guys are like in a construction company together. How can you show your father that I now can take, I'm going to go and find a crappy old house, see it, ask the people if we can flip it, and then let's start flipping it, Dad. Let's start doing things inside their house. You take the reins. And if you're in the place where you can do that, then your father will be like, oh, great. And now you're building on this fatherly influence, but adding your own to it. Do you have the confidence to do that? How do you build on that confidence? And in the same way, if you are not working with your father, you still need to act in some way which validates for yourself that you've got something going on in the world, especially if you've got a good Saturn and a good 10th house and a good Venus. You're going to find right now that there's an opportunity for you to validate what you've been building on in your life. And how do you do that? What's a good extracurricular way to build that confidence? Well, it's going to be more than just your father. This can also relate to your ability to be the father, the daddy, in some other relationship in your life, while also being able to take someone else's authority. You need to, again, not take it personally that you have authority above you, but also not take it personally that you have authority below you, and find some way to relate with your father emotionally so that you can show that you're allowed to, even if he's putting you down, you need to be able to say, communicate, say, Dad, you're being too much of this. And if he can't work that out, you've got to find ways that you can have the confidence to stand up to him and say, look, I've been working with you all this time. If you're going to keep being a dick to me, then I'm going to fucking end it and get rid of you and find some other way to deal with my life in a way that gives me the space, the breathing room to feel dignified in whatever I'm doing in my life. And you might blow up right now with this exact thing, either with your father or with your boss or with your coworkers and employees. Now, this might be an important thing that you need to do, because this is going to give you the feeling that's going to start grounding an open door for you to actively express the power that you have as a Leo, not just wasting your creative potential away in some company for some boss who's being a dick and just letting you waste your creative potential. You know, you don't have to quit your job and go out and be a starving artist, but you can find ways to be dignified and confident as a contributor to whatever field that you've found yourself in. And the only way to start doing that is to start experimenting with your felt sense of inherent authority. And you have to do that with your superiors. You have to do that with your father. If you can, now's a good time to work it out. And you have to do it in your relationships. where the two-way thing of knowing when to be authoritative, but also knowing when not to be. When you're being too authoritative. When you're talking to your partner, you know, as a man or a woman. I usually say the man thing because I am a man, but let's just consider from a woman's perspective. If you're a woman and you're a Leo rising and you have a partner and you have an idea, you have ideas for the partnership, especially your women, you know, Leo is romantic. And you need really to, in order to energize yourself as Leos, we need to exercise our capacity to be creative with grand ideas of theatrical performance. And your partners, or your partner, or whoever's close to you, even your family, can provide a stage for you to express this theatricality and say, I've got an idea, we're going to do this thing. And your partner should validate your desire to do that. Because if your partner validates your desire in the personal realm to express fun, theatrical, romantic, recreational creativity, then you will take that energy and put it into your creative professional field. Because Taurus is the 10th house. And your intimate relationships reflect on your ability to express in your professional relationships. So as a woman, as a Leo, if you are in a relationship, you need to communicate with your lover right now and find a way to feel a comfortable and appropriate sense of leadership in some regard, whether it's even supporting your husband, your lover, when they're going on some kind of tangent and they're just pissy and whatever, you know, like for you to have ways to expand creatively on your relationship and even lead with certain things, you know, say that this is something that we should do together or something we should go with in our relationship. Because again, the interpersonal validates the professional. But in the same way, if your lover doesn't want to do something that you don't want to do, you have to be willing, as a Leo woman, to delegate, to give them their space to be what they are. But whatever you got to do to make yourself feel like you are keeping the wheel spinning for both of you purely by the attractive abundance that you just are. Now, depending on your age, this might be a hard thing to do or an easy thing to do. But I should say, okay, yeah, so for women too, you have to be able to listen to your partner when they have something, and for you to have the authority to know when, to make the difference between when your partner tells you to do something, you have to say, I will do that for you, but I need you to make me feel dignified about it. I need you to make me feel like this is an equal, mutual decision for the both of us. And if they say, have you been reading that astrology self-help crap again? Look, just listen to what I say, because it's better for both of us, because you committed to this marriage where I would be the man and you would be my romantic little bitch who just does everything that I say. So don't give me this crap about you needing mutual authority. If they give you this kind of stuff, then you've really got to start playing and communicating. Go to therapy. Do something where you're letting them know that, like, hey, guess what, bud? I'm going to start treating you like I treat my boss at work right now, which is not good if you don't level with me. Bring some kind of leveling factor. Use your sway. What do you have in that relationship that can cause you to be like, jingle, 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 hey, remember all these things that I do for you? Yeah, well, I'm about to drop it in the toilet if you don't fucking listen to me. These are the kind of things that you need to deal with in your personal world. And you don't want it to be aggressive. The point is to start to learn, as we've thought about in our Uranus transiting Taurus video. You are coming up to, you've been crystallizing your sense of authority. Your sense of authority is crystallized because it's been so long since Uranus has, in your transpersonal, incarnating spirit, soul, throughout the thread of where you've been, you have left Uranus away from Taurus. And now Uranus has come up to Taurus. Your sense of self-confident authority has become crystallized, and you need to find some way to take an ice pick and get all those crystals away so that your feeling of authority somewhere in the world, some role, can be validated. Some expression, whether it's in career or it's in your personal life, where you have found an open channel for being validated for the work and effort that you do, whether it's in community, your personal life, whatever. That's how you're going to open up, really, your heart. This is a very important thing for Leo, because Leo's fun, giddy, extravagant expression is what's needed for Leo to do everything Leo does. Now, we've been talking in this series about how Uranus in particular, I should have said this at the beginning, but I just wanted to start rolling. Uranus is, the Native Americans have a story. Isabel Hickey in her book describes a story in the mythos of Native Americans. She doesn't say which one, but somewhere in America, the natives had this idea that the sun that we see in the sky is actually a hole in the sky. The orb of the sun is not the center of power. Really, the sun, there's a hole in the sky, and there's light beaming through it, but the light coming from that hole is not from an orb in the sky. It's a metaphor. What it's actually from is Uranus. Uranus is the sun behind the hole in the sky, where the sun is that we know of. There's a metaphor here. What it is, this is very important for Leos. Uranus is your best friend. And this is an opportunity for you right now with it in in your 10th house to express the best of Leo. It's very important because, again, the 10th house is what works out, is the platform through which we work out the karma of the first house. Okay? Uranus is the sun behind the sun. What that means is that your sun is this radiating power. It's what you are conscripted to, which is like your noble sense of what you do to energize yourself. It channels the whole chart. It's the center of the whole chart. And it powers, by the activity that you do with your sun, wherever your sun is, and just Leo in general, the power of Leo charges your whole chart and everybody's chart. The sun is the center of everybody's soul. And what you do with your sun energy relates to the center of everything, and it helps you transmute your karma. It's a very important thing. It makes you feel lighter when you can express the sun, when you can express a solid, confident, singular intention of your authority in your kingdom, in your world, for women and men and everything in between. Uranus is an intuitive grasp of the metaphysical evolutionary timeline of all human consciousness evolving. It is a blip. It's pure potential. The sun is not necessarily pure potential. The sun is a specific root. The sun, you have Leo in one place in your chart, and that's in the first house. You have the sun in one place in your chart, and it's going in one direction. It's not pure potential. It has inherent potential, but you need to express the single direction that your energy for your sun, you need to express that, but in balance with everything else in your life. And everything else in your life often overtakes the thing that you so enjoy doing, which is to be the lion, which is to move in a solid, fixed way towards building up some kind of self-expression and glory. And you have obstacles along the way, especially relating to Saturn, relating to other people, relating to organizations, because Aquarius rules your 6th and 7th house. So dealing with immediate needs of our business contracts, of our relationships, of other people, this is this limiter where you need to, this is going to cause you to stop expressing your sun, if only to just deal with it so that you can have channels for expressing your sun. The 7th house, business contracts, your constant everyday habits, the 6th house things as well. Wherever your Saturn is too, is going to show where you fasten yourself in the world that keeps your body alive, that keeps you alive, that keeps you moving and stops you from getting stuck in your own sense of pure potential. Because Leo often feels like pure potential, but I'm wasting away unless I find channels of people to keep my energy going while I build on this sun thing. So Saturn is going to conscript you down, give you contracts and obligations and responsibilities and relationships that you need to hunker down on in order to ground and constantly carve out this onion of your potential. But you're constantly carving this onion in little slits for all these little obligations that you've found yourself to do. Now Uranus comes along and it's pure potential for your sun, for your creative expression. Wherever Uranus is transiting is where the actual pure potential is bursting through like a pimple and is going to eliminate limits to the fullest expression of your creative potential. But by doing that, this excision is going to make a bit of a mess with a few of the other things related to wherever Uranus is placed. So Uranus is this pure potential, and the pure potential principle needs to work out in different ways. That's why it transits all our houses, transits our natal planets. And here with Uranus, if you have any planets that Uranus is transiting in Taurus, it's going to deeply activate them. But even if you don't, like I don't have any planets in Taurus, but my 10th house cusp is there. It's always the 10th house. And so Uranus now is in the perfect spot for unfolding the pure creative potential that you want to express in the world. And you are going to express too much authority. This is the thing for Leo in particular with this transit, is that you're going to delve a little too much into authority with your relationships. It's either authority on one hand or meekness on the other. And you might delve into authority where you start pushing your partner around because you feel right now like you need to validate it because your boss is coming down on you. So you might have an instinct to say, well, my boss is giving me shit, so I deserve to give shit to somebody in the universe, and my wife or my husband is the only person who I can, so I'm just going to give it to them. That is too much authoritativeness. Too much authority under, too much meekness above, right? Now what's going to happen is that this is going to switch around so that now perhaps you're going to give, since you gave too much authority to your partner and they all of a sudden explode on you and say, listen, I'm going to break up with you if you keep being a dick like this. And you go, oh my God, I don't want to lose everything that keeps me grounded in everything that I want to do, which is another sketchy thing. You know, Uranus and Taurus might just completely obliterate all of your connections to everybody so you can completely reinstate your sense of your authority and this sort of thing. You know, this can happen to some people, especially if you got an ill-placed Venus. But you're probably in this period going to exercise too much authority, and it will reverberate so that the universe says, okay, you have to be meeker. You are being way too much. Now you need to start. It's like you exploded in your relationship with your authority to whoever, whether it's with your boss, you have like a nervous breakdown because they're pushing you too hard and you're not voicing your sense of dignity, and you go and you just have a nervous breakdown, and that makes you meek. Now you're too meek. Then you go to your boss and you're being meek, and the boss says, why are you being such a wuss? I need a strong person to be in my company to do to be an ambassador for our image and our brand, and to tell other competitors how good we're doing and these sorts of things, whatever it is that you do in your job. And by being too meek, this one over here, by being too meek, the universe says, look, you have to express your authority now, because you are just being pushed into a meek place where your self-esteem is being destroyed. And now this part's going to pop, and it's going to explode, and you're going to say, no, what, you know what? Now I need to express authority somewhere to somebody. And then it's going to go in these waves until you can find an ideal balance where you've got somebody, a relationship where you can push your authority on them, but for them to understand that this is what Leo is. And for them to appreciate it, to validate it, but also give you feedback when you're doing too much of that. Right now, Taurus is teaching you that dimension of yourself is good. Because we push ourselves as Leos. We push ourselves too much for the sake of our work. Because Leo and Taurus was ruled by Venus, we give selflessly to our job, to our company, to this ennoblement of us being seen in the world. We push everything in ourselves in order to extract the flower of the glory that we want people to see us as. And we are our relationships. So that means that we as Leos need to find some trick where you can have a sense of abundance. How can you have a puberty abundance, an understanding of your gender, so that the genderization of your partner can appreciate when you are too much, when you are sacrificial, when you sacrifice the enjoyment of your immediate personal relationship for the sake of some bigger project, but you still enjoy the solidarity, the richness of your romance, your recreation, and all of these things at the Taurus level, the energy exchange level, the basic energy exchange level. You want to feel abundant with your authority so that you don't need to feel like you're validating your own emotions. You need to feel like you've developed relationships where you can express this authority without the partner taking it personally. And this is also the relationship that you have the opportunity to get with your boss or with your employers. Because your employer, your employees, and your intimate relationships are all deeply connected as a Leo. And this is the field upon which you can learn to express what Uranus wants to express through your creative potential. Uranus is unfolding all the blockages to your emotional validity so that you can go to any job and you know that you have the secret things going on in the background that give you a personal sense that what you're doing right now is dignified, has proper sense of authority, and is useful, and is attractive and seductive and abundant because of the swagger. Because you found something in your life that gives you the richness of doing what Leo wants to do, which is to be that creative instigator, which is to be an authority, even to be a bit of a daddy, or even if you're a woman, to be like the hot mama who's like, what's up, baby, what's going on, and to be like, kind of come hither with your partner, for the partner to be like, ooh, what's going on, baby, for you to be able to do this kind of thing in your personal life, you can do it in your professional life too. It's the main theme of Uranus and Taurus for a Leo rising. Particularly right now, you might be just finding jobs, finding roles through which it's not about Aries anymore. Uranus and Aries was just about finding jobs, finding different things to do for people, to make you to build on the feeling like you can keep going no matter what. Now you are working out and experimenting with your ability to find a particular type of job that does the trick for your inspiration, for your confidence, and for your expression of the authority, which is the open door for the Leo rising. It's the platform, the 10th house for the Leo rising to come through. It's the stage for you to perform. If you want that stage, You have to work out what that stage is. Who's going to be that stage? What role, what are you going to do in the world, which is going to build on your legacy as a Leo. The opportunity is there right now. Eliminate what you got to eliminate to experiment and explore with it, because Uranus is only in Taurus for 7 years, and then it's gone probably until this opportunity won't come again. So take advantage of it, because Uranus is very important to a Leo. I hope you guys enjoyed that. This was a long one, so but it makes sense because I'm a Leo rising, so I hope you guys dug this. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like, subscribe, do all the things, because I always got more stuff coming in the world of how to rock astrology. I'm Dustin Cormier. Thanks for watching. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to see you today. My name is Dustin Cormier, and welcome to How to Rock Astrology. Today's episode, you, my Virgo friend, are going to be hearing a little bit about what it means to have your 9th house. I've been doing this whole series talking about Uranus, and if you want to hear a little bit about Uranus and Taurus in general, take a peek at the Uranus transiting Taurus video to get a deep sense of what Uranus is, especially as it relates to the sun, because Uranus is deeply an exponent to the sun. We're going to talk about that. We also talk about what Taurus means and its rulership of Venus and what that means to everyone's chart, as well as significant placements in the chart that might bring out a deep richness to this period for you, for everybody. Today in particular, we are talking about Uranus in Taurus for a Virgo, generally what it means to have Uranus transiting your 9th house, but I really want to fit it specifically to you, my Virgo friend. And we're going to talk in particular about particularly how Leo relates to Taurus for everybody. We want to paint that picture, and then we want to paint what Leo means to Virgo and what Taurus means to Virgo, because it's, again, Uranus is in Taurus, and Uranus is always an exponent of the sun, meaning what does Uranus's transit in this sign, in this house, mean to the expression of Leo, the sun, in your chart? And I guess before I start, I would like to get into a little bit about why Uranus relates to the sun in this way. First thing I want to do is just underlie a few things just to get you teased and excited about what this video is all about. Because this is a good time for you, my Virgo friend, because Uranus is in the area of your 9th house. Even if your 9th cusp is not there, Taurus is still the 9th sign from Virgo. And Virgo finds its deep meaning of life, its desire to keep moving forward despite all obstacles, for the just ethical big picture reality. Virgo finds this when they experience how they and their psyche and their psychological build-up from childhood, how that relates to others and how it can bring them energetic abundance. They come to find that this energetic exchange energy for everybody is the meaning of life for them. Taurus deeply, Taurus as this energy exchange, assets. Taurus is like the psyche that does the exchange of energy. Scorpio is actually the energy exchange, but in order to do the Scorpio thing, you got to do the Taurus thing. Meaning, what do you bring? What are you, which would attract the abundance and attraction that would result in the energy exchange? By Virgo uncovering this for themselves, they start to find that the meaning of life very deeply involves the uncomplicated extension of the psyche towards practical and functional goals for everybody. Now, this deeply relates, this is true for everybody, but you in particular find the meaning of life through, or you feel a stimulation of the ninth house, bigger picture meaning of life through this arena, through the uncomplicated relationship of one person's psyche with another, and how to build up the psyche of one person to another. This is very deeply true because Virgo lives to digest unnecessary tension and disorganization. Virgo lives for the liberated feeling of having some kind of, well, I'm going to get there, but the idea is that Virgo does live, their inspiration involves the dismantling of unconscious tension in their own psyche or also in the psyche of others. Part of the reason for this is because Leo, the solar central power in the chart, is expressing itself through the 12th house in Virgo. What does that mean? This is something that we're deeply going to get into in this video. But essentially, what we're trying to say here is that by Uranus being in Taurus, it is going to unbuckle the complications in your childhood and in your psyche, and it's going to cause you to explore and enjoy exploring how your psyche can bring abundance to your relationships. And it's going to give you a role, some kind of a person in a relationship with your boss, as well as with your employers, with everyone in your relationships. Uranus in Taurus is going to provide it's going to cause you to explore your sexual role through which you can tap into the creative impulse in Leo to help people, to help dismantle the complications of their psyche so that they can live their lives better. And in doing so, you also do that for yourself, because that's what Virgo is deeply inclined to do. So, so what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about the sun as relates to Virgo, Leo in the 12th house. And eventually we're going to build a picture for how Uranus and Taurus builds on that, okay? But even before we talk about the sun, let's talk about Uranus. Just a quick word, because this is what I've been explaining in these videos. There's an old Native American myth. I only actually just got this word from Isabel Hickey, who is an American astrologer who was born in like the 20s. She was a very intelligent, intuitive Western astrologer. Even though I'm like a Vedic astrologer, I love to blend Western and Vedic. And Isabel Hickey noted in one of her books, it's just a throwaway little thing she mentions, but what she says is that the Native Americans have this old mythos, this old idea that, there's a moth hanging out in my room. The mythos is that there's a hole in the sky, which we call the sun. But how the Native Americans had this mythos, this idea, is that this hole in the sky is actually just a hole in the sky. There's a pure energy potential behind that hole in the sky, and that's the true sun. We as people in the scientific world of, Western understanding and science and NASA and astronomy know that there's an orb in the sky that is the sun. But this is a metaphor here. The Native Americans were trying to even speak to an astrological wisdom, which is that what we know as the solar center of our universe, the sun, is actually just a hole in the sky. And there's that hole in the sky is our karma. It's the continual perpetuation of what we are, and it's our inspiration. It's a hole through which we have a specific direction, a constant, reliable thing that we can do in our lives to unfold our karma in a way which gets on top of it, which is constructive, and which validates our journey to progress in our karma, to produce positive fruits of the best of ourselves, and also to limit and reduce the worst of ourselves. By doing what the sun is, we do that. And the sun does not have infinite potential per se. It's an open hole. And you can put infinite potential through the form of the karma that you're living right now, through the person, through the job, through the relationships that you have right now. That's your sun. And all of this is eking through there. Uranus is the pure energy potential that wants to squeeze through that hole. And wherever Uranus is going to have an intuition of a better, more evolved, more pure way to express your sun. Uranus represents a pure potential principle. It's a metaphysical, it's an intuitable, metaphysical, logical framework for the developing human psyche, and even on deeper transcendental spiritual planes, as some Virgos might know. Virgo can be very material, but it can also be very understanding that there are almost quasi-material patterns through which the spiritual world expresses. Everything comes through forms. Even the formless is a hierarchy and a cosmology. The absolute, the idea of the absolute, is still somewhere in an ideological hierarchy, which Virgo tends to be perfect about. So this idea of Uranus might not be strange to you. An example I like to give, there's many you could give, but this is how Uranus works, okay? Let's imagine a caveman, and one caveman has a rock, and it's flint. And he has this like dead animal thigh, and he's trying to tenderize the thigh and the meat on the bone, and to get the meat off the bone by just smacking this flint against this rock. And every time he misses and hits the rock underneath it, some sparks fly out. Another caveman is watching him and thinking, and he sees the sparks, and he sees it hitting dead grass, and every now and then the dead grass ignites a little bit. Now, this caveman doesn't logically, rationally understand the concept of fire, but there's an intuitive display of the eternal fact of fire, which the caveman is intuiting, even though they don't understand. Even though they are not presently in the experience of what fire is and how it works, they're intuiting that fire could be a thing. And that's how fire got invented. In the same way, each person's karma has the ideal way to express itself. This is what astrology teaches us. And wherever Uranus is in your chart is like the sparks. It's these sparks off the rock hitting dead grass, showing where you can better use and expand into the solar energy of your sun and the constant thing that you do in the world. And it relates very deeply to the sun. Uranus relates with Brahma I've recently kind of absorbed that. Uranus relates with Brahma in Vedantic philosophy, which is like the absolute, pure potential, pure creative possibility, pure unadulterated intelligence. You're a Virgo, so I'm going to try to keep this tight and functional and practical. Your psyche has an ideal unfoldment for itself. It takes in nutrients through some ways, and it needs to express everything that it takes to build you up into a vessel capable of constructive action. You have to act on that. And hopefully, ideally, the sum of your actions is greater than the parts which allow you to express as a vehicle for some kind of agenda and whatever it is you do in your life. So the sun is this constant thing that we do in ourselves that gives us this energy through which we can do everything else. Leo is that. The sun and Leo, wherever the sun is in your chart, but the 12th house, Leo. Leo uses the 12th house Virgo uses the 12th house to express this. Now, it's kind of confusing. What does it mean to express this through the 12th house? Well, in order to describe this a little bit. I mean, I guess I want to ground the fact that Uranus being in Taurus, transiting all through the houses. This is teaching you about how that house contributes to the energy of the center of the universe, which is the sun, which is your everyday constant building of what you want to be in your life. So Uranus in Taurus, the realm of Taurus, the realm of the 9th house right now, is your arena for unfolding what the sun, what Leo means to you. And before I get into what the sun means to you, I just want to show you one little picture just to, I want to show you one little picture just to help ground the sense of what all of this means. Or just in particular, something that we have to talk about, which is the relationship of Taurus to Leo. Taurus is in the 10th house from Leo, right? We know that the 10th house, if this is confusing to you or annoying, too thick astrologically, just bear with me because I'm going to come through. I try to be an educator here, you know, and give these insights into the roots of, I don't want to just tell you, Uranus and Taurus means this for a Virgo. I kind of want to give you a bit of the schema as to why. Now, it sounds complicated, but just bear with me because it'll make more sense. The 10th house from anything is the arena through which you can work out the karmas of that house. For example, the example I like to give is, let's consider the 7th house, okay? What's the 10th house from the 7th house? It's the 4th house. That's this down here, right? If you can see, for you Westerners, you know, this is Virgo, your ascendant. This is Libra, the 2nd house. Scorpio, the 3rd. Sagittarius, the 4th. The 4th house is the platform upon which we work out the instinctive karmas that is necessary for the 7th house. So you need to work out your own emotional fulfillment and your blockages to your own enjoyment and collect resources for your emotional and fundamental enjoyment of life. And, you know, that's how you release the tension and express yourself socially. That's, you know, if it's through working out your own inner gunk of your life, that provides an arena for you to work out your relationships. Because you need your own emotional feeling and understanding in order to relate, okay? So that's why the 4th is the 10th from the 7th. This transit of Uranus and Taurus is very important for everybody because right now, Uranus is in the 10th house from Leo. And another way to say this for you is that Uranus is in the 10th from the 12th, which means you right now are building a platform through which you can work out the karma of your 12th house, where Leo is. And it's an emotional reality. It's reducing tension, dismantling the psyche's obstructions to its glorious unfolding at an easy level, feeling level. Because Virgos just love to have a constant pipeline through which they can express their reliable skills, their inventiveness, their enjoyment of how they can make things easier for other people, how they can make things easier for the company, how they can bring people together and organize people so that their psyches all harmonize. Virgo is just before Libra. Virgo is the 12th house from Libra, from social organization. So I don't want to get too thick on this, but consider that right now Uranus is in the 10th from Leo, which means it is building a plane, a platform through which you can work out the karmas that block you from expressing your sun and Leo and the 12th house and what those things are all about. Okay? Now let's talk a little bit about what exactly that is. I just want to give you a little rundown of, this comes from Astrology, a Cosmic Science by Isabel M. Hickey. And this is talking about having Virgo on the first house and Leo in the 12th house. Okay? What is it that Virgo is all about deeply at its essence? With Virgo on the first house, an individual born in Virgo or with Virgo rising at birth has the gift of eternal youth conferred upon them due to Mercury's rulership. So they never look their age, no matter what their age, which is like always a nice thing for Virgos. They always tend to look younger, eternally youthful. Partly because the sun, what the sun does is it grips a youth, it focuses constantly on things that make their lives easier, things that they can do to make others' lives easier, and it's just this natural sun in the 12th, Leo as the 12th, meaning vitality coming just behind one's physical self. It's a nice thing for a Virgo, and it's part of what they are, which is just expressing a quiet radiance in any moment with everybody, so that everybody can lean on the reliable Virgo with their knowledge, with their skill sets, to contribute to whatever's going on and to make everyone feel easier about what's going on. Virgo's the great smoothener, making everybody feel comfortable. Now, don't let this make you feel like you're being put into the classic Virgo thing, which is, oh, I get it, I'm the selfless server. I'm going to switch that around in a way that you can understand, so bear with me. A great sensitivity and a feeling of inadequacy are inherent in the person born in this sign. Because their power is locked up in the 12th house, Virgo has a greater sense of power than they are able to express. They always feel like they've got more in behind them than they have, than they can express. And they'll always feel that, even when they're in the fullest, juiciest expression. I can always get more. But when the Virgo has a good psyche, they feel that, but then they do their job and they say, good, this is exactly what my psyche had built me up to in this moment. I can validate that this is exactly the amount of effort that I need to put in this job. The job is well done, and I can go home happy. The result often with this, all of this though, is an inferiority complex. The first house is the externalization of the self, and the personal self in this sign is learning the lesson of humble service and patience. But there is a positive plus at the subjective level, the inner level. Virgo just likes to have all these little things that they can do, and it gives them a sense of meaning and purpose, as long as there's lots of little ways that they can be useful, reliable to other people, and to make things easier for people. And in the long run, the Virgos, the greatest satisfaction belongs to the Virgo. Despite how it seems in the world of appearances, to the earner belong the fruits of the labor that no one can take away in the spiritual bank books of whatever Virgo has applied themselves to. Virgo has to do with the end of a cycle of purely personal development, because the 6th house is the last of the signs underneath the horizon. In the same way, the 1st to the 6th signs, Aries through Virgo, is dealing with like internal realities. It can come through a devotional surrender of some sort, or by the acquisition of techniques or adequate training in skills, creative as well as manual. So all of this adds up to this picture of what Leo is to a Virgo. Leo, the powerhouse of the zodiac, locked up in the 12th house of subjective sustainment and self-limitation, is the reason Virgo can often be the power behind the throne, but is not often allowed to be on the throne. Their job is to sustain and strengthen others, thereby redeeming and transforming the Virgo themselves. So, again, don't let this bum you out, because I have a friend who's a Virgo rising who is a very well-to-do artist in their own right. He's a good pal of mine. He's a guy, and he is he's an artist. He's a musician, and he's got a whole plethora of his own expression, his creative expression. And he constantly expresses himself in the way that puts him on a spotlight. So he's sitting on the throne. But his music, often I find, he is singing and talking about, how did I put it? I believe it was, his music is all about dismantling the complicated psyche of his audience for them and for himself, singing about what is it that would make my life easier or your life easier, or the mechanics and functionality of human life in general. It's the very earthy ground of human life that Virgo tends to talk about. And the sun being in the 12th shows that Virgo shines when they can have some kind of pipeline that gives them a trance feeling. Think about the 12th house in its relationship to Pisces. Pisces, freedom, letting go of things. Now, the sun is not one to let go of things, is it? It's this forward-moving, singular-pointed focus. So what does it mean for you to have Leo in the 12th? Virgo lives for the liberated 12th house moksha. Virgo lives for the liberated feeling of having some kind of well-planned pipeline of checks, routines, habits, people, places, and things to reliably spin themselves through, their energy through, in a constant trickling, the Mercury enjoyment sort of way that they find intellectually, rationally, the best places to put their intention in this moment, and then the next one in this moment, and to even multitask with several different things for several different people, as long as they have, the sun is trying to build a constant pipeline in themselves, so that at first it's annoying. Like, it starts off as Saturn, because Saturn rules your 6th house. Mind you, Saturn rules your 5th and your 6th, right? Capricorn and Aquarius. Capricorn in the 5th, Aquarius in the 6th. So it starts off as this enjoyment of finding creative ways of managing yourself. 6th house things, routines, and it's pulled, you're yanked out of it by Saturn, by your father, by your mother, by the world's pressure for you to act through some kind of way, and you even enjoy it. You find creative Capricorn in the 5th house, creative enjoyment, 5th house, out of, there's a certain self-expression that comes from this routine, being chained to some kind of job, some kind of reliable thing, which allows you to open your creative expression. That's the 5th house related to Saturn. In a similar way, there's a blend here with the sense that once you are pulled to have these things, what happens next is that the sun wants to find ways to project a trance-like pipeline for practical, functional habits that become so habitual that it's easy for them. They project constant radiating creative energy towards these things that have now become skills that they enjoy and find recreational enjoyment in. And it's the joy that jumpstarts Virgo's real satisfaction and fulfillment and even authority. Virgo can find a sense of authority in the psychic field of looking at people and saying, you're thinking this, you're feeling this way, and why, and asking them. Virgo has a certain sense of speaking to people's full psychology because they feel it in their own sense. Leo is in the 12th. Leo expresses through the 12th, through a psychic level of peace. And when the Virgo doesn't have peace, well, if the Virgo doesn't find a sense of enjoyment and peace and emotional letting go in the activities that they're constantly pushing, then there's some things that they have to think about, okay? The sun is constantly building on these reliable pipelines of activity that is comforting for them, but also is glory for them behind the scenes. And they're okay with it kind of being this quiet, practical little industrial thing that they do kind of behind the scenes of everybody, because that's how they get out their emotional tension in a lot of ways. They're creative about getting out this tension and finding positive pipelines for their subliminal energy. And you deserve to have this. You should know that you inherently deserve the enjoyment of these concisely built plans, these pathologies, these little hobbies and skills and things that you do, even when they do involve your job. You deserve to feel you inherently deserve these things because you're a Virgo. This is where you've built yourself to be in your incarnation, in your life. Now consider this. If you're reading this and you just feel dehumbled by it, and you probably won't. You're probably a Virgo, and you know that you do, you can go and find enjoyment doing your little tasks, and that's good enough. But you should still feel dignified that that is a wonderful thing. Do you? Do you feel satisfied with the little things that you've been doing in your life that build up that give you this pipeline, that give you these things to do which are enjoyable? Do you feel like you're allowed to enjoy the simple pleasures that you do at your job, which you've built through your education and your experience in the world? Are you enjoying them? If you're not, a weak sun for a Virgo doesn't feel compelled to validate themselves in this quiet, humble effort. And because you don't validate yourself through it, if you have a weak sun, then you probably won't find a need for that emotional tension release. You probably won't feel humbly satisfied or even constant in the activity that you constantly employ. So, this is a question, like, do you have a constant stream of energy that you put towards making you feel like you are dripping into your skills? Do you have skills, first of all, to feel like you can work? Do you have skills? Is your Mercury good? Have you built up little things in your life where you can have the authority to know that this is good, that you're good at this thing? You probably have as a Virgo. This is the point here, especially if your Mercury is well placed, if your 10th house is good. Mercury is especially important here because you're going to find some kind of skill that can give you all these things. But that's really another thing. Even if you don't have a good Mercury, you don't have skills, whatever you are doing in your life should feel like exactly what you need to do in this moment. And you should have a feeling of authority, of a creative sense that this is exactly what needs to be done in this moment. So if you don't feel that, why not? What is it that's blocking you from feeling like whatever you do is inherently inspired and creative and even like enjoyable and valid? Like the work that you do, do you have such a pipeline that's validating for you, validating enough to keep you moving? And why not? And if you do have some things, some skills, some connections with people, are you enjoying it? Ambitiously. Do you enjoy the creative ambition of what you have going on in your life? So this is what Leo does for a Virgo. Now, Uranus is going to make you feel right now like there is more that you can feel more inspired, more validated, and even expand more deeply on the energy that you put into your recreational, enjoyable activities, even into projecting quiet projects where you work towards some kind of glory or some kind of skill, again, that you can contribute to. It's you're building on your reliability. And so that's what Leo is always trying to express through Virgo. I could go on forever about this, but now we have to consider the fact that Taurus is in your 9th house. And Taurus is the 10th house from Leo, which means you need to work out your sense of the validation of whatever skills that you do behind the scenes, because they're always important. Whatever you do behind the scenes is going to be your way to help out the world, to contribute creatively and constantly in the world. By holding things together, by sitting there confidently with your knowledge and just pointing fingers. That thing goes there. That nut needs to go in that slot. That needs to go there. This needs to go here. And to be able to have the emotional tension release, to hold yourself steady while you just are the guy with the checkboard that's just watching and making sure everything in this organization that you're a part of is going according to plan. Virgo, Mercury, naturally is the 2nd house of Leo. And so they hold down and constrict and put their energy towards everyone else's expression of some kind of creativity. And that is your creativity. That is something that inspires you, feeling like you are contributing to something or someone's well-being, or just your own well-being. Finding roots to this quiet, humble, reliable expression of your energy that gives you a sense of that trance-like peace. Now, you don't even need to be terribly successful as a Virgo, although it's probably something that you're interested in. But the first thing that needs to be said, what Leo is working out is the enjoyment of the activity. Now, that activity requires energy, it requires abundance, it requires resources, it requires your own resources and vitality, emotional security, particularly emotional security. And you might not feel validated in whatever it is that you do with the sun. Well, right now, you are in a particular period where you can work out that validation, that sense that what you're doing is perfect in its own little way. That's really what this period is mostly about for you. All in all, once Uranus gets to your 10th house, that's when you're going to explore all sorts of different roles in the world that can fasten you to a deep expression of the skills that you've been building on. Now let's think about the fact that where Uranus has been transiting, okay? When Uranus was in... Let me just go back a little bit here and just digest what's going on. So Leo needs Taurus to experiment with and work out the kinks and the karma that obstructs Leo's inspired radiance. This is mostly just about your capacity as a person who wants to inspirationally enjoy the creative process for its own sake. What's stopping you from doing that? Well, Taurus is the arena through which you can work that out, to keep you constantly enjoying the inspiration of working with people and working behind the scenes and even dealing with your own psyche in order to well up your psyche and your body in order to apply yourself to what you need. Now, Taurus is what gives you the permission to do these things, okay? If you're following me. There's only one thing that's really going to deeply obstruct the sun, unless there's other things going on with your sun, but we're talking purely at a house level here. Taurus is what your creative expression stands on. It's actually what everybody's creative expression stands on, because Taurus is in the 10th house from Leo. So, for you, this involves the experienced feeling of inherent value, self-worth, and abundance by what you unconsciously are and what you've been since your childhood psychology. Taurus. Taurus relates with our childhood psychology, with our upbringing, with our parents, with our family, and with our established family values. For Taurus, family values deeply blends with a religious sentiment. Taurus finds a bigger picture feeling like they are a big cog in a bigger wheel, mostly and particularly by feeling like their family values are extending through their work in the world. Taurus extending through the 9th house, through their exploration of staying up and being what they could be. Even exploring your own psyche unfolds a feeling like you're a part of something bigger. Okay? So practical, valuable relationships and the security of promised energy exchange, the security that what you are inherently, without even trying, is going to bring people to you, whether it's a partner, whether it's a wife or a husband, or whether it's business associates, or immediate people who help you do what you do, co-workers even, employees and such. I mean, these are different houses and stuff, but all the people through which you exchange energy. It's the confidence through which you exchange energy that keeps you going. If you have a feeling like just by, this is the fact that Taurus is your 9th house. What is it? The 9th house is wandering, continuing. It's Sagittarius. What keeps you coming up no matter how many times you fall down? This is what Uranus in Taurus is teaching you. How can you be drawn to keep moving forward in a way that feels like you're gaining energy just by being what you are? It's Taurus. It's your sexual relatability. Now, what exactly does this mean? Well, it's kind of like the idea, like when you say to your partner that I need to go to work. I know we wanted to have this date, but I need to go to work today in order to do this particular thing for this customer. Let's say you're a mechanic and a customer needs you on Friday, even though you planned something with your girlfriend. You, if it's worth it for you, and if it is going to make your life better and it's going to contribute to your inspiration, then you're going to have these moments, and you need to be able to confident as a Virgo. If you feel like that's going to bring the most abundance to the world, then you have to have the confidence to look at your partner and say, darling, I have to work for this guy on Friday, even though we made that promise, that plan that we were going to do something exciting together. Now, would you have the confidence that you could say that to your partner? Would they support you in your sudden decision change? Because if they don't, then or are you confident that you can do that? Are you confident that you can keep your lover while you go and do the things that you do in the world? Are you confident that you feel abundantly attractive to your partner just by the way that you are? Just by the way that you wag your finger and say, come hither. You know, you can have, Virgos have their own psychosexual dynamics, and your sun sign also contributes to that as well. But this period right now is begging you to confront how you have dealt with sexual relationships since childhood, Taurus. And by learning how you can best unfurl your psyche, the way that you relate with people, how you best examine your own psyche, and what could you do to bring a sense of a sexual attraction to your partner. This is going to also give you a sense of how you can relate not just to your partner, but also other people, including your boss, your company. Because energy exchange with your company, they need to feel like, ideally, you've got an abundance, you've got assets, you've got reliable skills, and the confidence to work for this company. And you want to feel like they love you and admire you just by what you are, just inherently, by your confidence, by your sexuality. Sexuality is a big part of this Uranus and Taurus thing. Feeling like you can validate your sexuality as well as still keeping this job, this career, this thing. And Uranus and Taurus right now is probably pushing you to explore different companies, to explore different avenues for your feeling like what you are as a Virgo, as a worker, your skills, your education that you've built yourself up to. This is the period where you need to fasten all of your skills to something that appreciates you for your skills, to appreciate you for what you have, the identity that you've been, the values that you've held in your family and in yourself, your creative enjoyment, your feeling of abundance and joy in life. These are all Taurus childhood things. And whatever job you're in ought to bring out the richness of who you are and to apply who you are. So this period is really going to be, you know, how do you feel like you have an authority in any junction with anybody? How do you feel confident that you can sit and talk with somebody and help them, reliably talk with them and be a shoulder for them to lean on? How do you feel confident in doing that? In finding a role for yourself in the world, the 9th house. Virgo very deeply needs to use Venus and Taurus in order to find what makes them emotionally validated so that they can feel confident about what they do. And this involves the enjoyment of their recreation, of their skills that they employ in the world. Venus rules the 2nd house as well as the 9th house for a Virgo. Libra is the 2nd house. So you're in what it is that you enjoy doing becomes the role that you want to find in the world. That's a secret cool key for Virgo. And it's through Venus, it's through this values in yourself that you find yourself finding roles in the world as an artist, as a mechanic, as whatever it is that you've taken upon yourself to educate yourself in, as in a reliable way, to have worldly experience in. You're probably constantly hacking at these skills and valuable assets that you can bring to any relationship. And you right now are probably, because Uranus is in the 9th house, you're probably seeking a feeling of being attached to something bigger so that you're not wasting energy trying to bring it all in yourself. And when you attach yourself to people who love you for who you are, who trust your statements, who validate your need to feel validated in all the little things that you do. Do your partners do that for you? Does your boss do that for you? Are you in a job which inspires you to be a part of it and to be a part of the world and to keep moving forward? Now, you probably feel the need to find some kind of role, some kind of job in the world that puts your skills that you've been building on through Venus and through your enjoyment of dealing with anything, with the trades, with working with certain bosses, certain people, that you found useful ways of relating with a boss, but also, you know, like, did you ever feel embittered to your boss because they were a dick? Were you able to be silent and do the work that your boss told you to do without taking it too personally? But did you also hold yourself with your dignity? Or did you just eat? I mean, Leo is in the 12th here, so Virgos often just eat emotional tension and digest it in order that they can mutely, yes, sir. And then they digest this tension of the boss, and the boss is even giving them shit that's more than they deserve, and the Virgo just holds it in and just does it. And that's an emotional digestion, which is part of your thing that you're really good at, especially when you're working in an industry where there's lots of tension being thrown around. Virgo is the stoic one that says, you don't need to yell, and it says, for everybody's sake, to the boss, you don't need to yell. We're a well-organized team, and I can assure you that this task is going to get through. Relax, bud. There could be like a union sort of guy who helps to, yes, it's like they show the boss that everyone here is organized and knows what's going on. I can explain to you the whole operation, and we're going to do it. Trust me. You know, that's part of the huge capacity that Virgo has. But as you were doing that, did you digest more than you needed to? Did you feel ill-dignified in your job so that your boss is actually treating you like a piece of crap? If that's the case, but you can still take the best from that and bring it to all, right now, you can take all the best of everything you've been and put it into many different experiences which you are inspired to do at an ethical level for the world, for your sense of reliability, for being connected to something bigger than yourself. You're going to best feel that by connecting with bosses who actually appreciate you for what you do. Partners who actually appreciate this emotional digesting and quiet, stoic moving forward in a planned direction. You need to find people who appreciate and validate you for your ability to do these things. Now, while Uranus was in Aries, you probably felt like you were just jumping into groups just because that's where the world was pitting you. The 8th house relates to sexual being thrown into something. And the 8th house is a tough one for Virgo because Mars rules the 8th house and also the 3rd house. So throughout 2011 to now, especially if you've got a tough Mars or if you've got malefic planets in Aries, you might have felt that you were being forced by your will or for some reason to involve yourself in some kind of group or some kind of ideological group, some kind of job, some kind of entrepreneurial plan for the entrepreneurial's own sake. It might have been a bit of a gamble. It might have felt unstable. Or you were dealing with a bunch of people who don't get along together, and this might have caused you psychic tension and a vague feeling like you don't know where you're going in life because you're just being pulled around by the group, the needs of this group. And 2011 to now might have been a tough go for you. But now that Uranus is in Taurus, you are intuiting that there are ways which you have assets and values and goods which are useful and functional to some groups, to some people. And it's not about the groups anymore. Now it's about the people and your sexual energy, your inherent interpersonal energy, the way that you relate to people, and the assets and values that you have, so that you don't need to just connect with any old group just for the sake of it. Now you feel like you want to be building on a feeling, build on the feeling like you are moving towards your best creative expression in the world. That's the 9th house. That's what you now have the opportunity to build on. And a huge part of building on that is going to relate to what is it that you do, what you are intrinsically, your sexuality, the abundance that pours out of you. What is there in you that can contribute to a group where they want you? You're not pushing yourself to be a part of a group anymore. That's Aries in the 8th house, trying to viscerally find ways to connect with things larger than yourself. And you might have gotten a lot of good out of that. You might have learned to connect with a group even though there's unstable things happening. Aries, in fact, is in trine Leo. So the instability of the group does work well with your ability to eat emotional tensions between everybody, but they might have all funneled into you, and you might have taken on extra effort, extra work, just to make everybody happy, just like Virgo does. And you might have helped everybody get happy, but it might have been a waste of energy. Now you are in the 10th house from your 12th house, which is the 9th house. So now you are joyously coming to a point where you need to feel like these groups that you're involving yourself in aren't sucking you out. Now, you might be involved in some good groups. You might have a marriage going on that is your ideal marriage or your ideal groups. Now you're in a period where you've let go a lot of emotional tension by being thrown around in the 8th house thing. Now you're releasing into a moment where you're like, I've had enough. I am valid, and I can find partners and groups that validate my self-worth that I inherently am. And if you have found a group like that, you can begin to ask them to communicate. And it's in this communication that you find that you're all connected to some deeper meaning of life. And you find a meaning of life just by talking with people about how I'm like this and I think I can contribute this to the group. You know, how do you deliver yourself from meekness for its own sake? That's what this period is teaching you. Why is what you do inherently abundant and meaningful? And how can you connect what is meaningful and reliable and useful in you to a useful group or philosophy or connection in the world or individual specific people that enjoy you for what you are and can cause you to not have to work so hard with this like, oh my God, I'll just make everybody happy. People who appreciate you for doing that. It's when you find people, and through this 9th house, through Taurus, through validating yourself, when you find people who do all of these things, guess what? That's the 10th house from Leo, which means that you are going to start finding that you enjoy your capacity to eat emotions for other people, to make situations, to dismantle the tension in a situation, to do functional things that makes everybody's lives easier, your partner's lives easier, your own lives, to do simple little fun little, this could even be an abundant area of finance for you, because Taurus, your house of finances, is related to this feeling like you are connected to the casuistry, the mystical way of the world. You are just as valid and competent as anybody else, and so you can do things like take your excess money and put it in the stock market, or start, enjoy the feeling that you are allowed to build on a bigger picture of how you can contribute to your economy through putting your assets into some kind of financial places which will help them grow and help you feel confident. And it's when you have, even by playing in these spheres of your own personal sense of entrepreneurship, you're already building on Leo. You're already learning to express the constancy of your sun, to have income coming in, to have abundance, and to have a feeling like you can get through, like you have a built-up pipeline for your reliable energy to express through. Because that's what the sun loves. Loves in Leo, with Leo in the 12th, this person loves to build on little routine checks, this pipeline of ways through which you can express your recreational and ambitious energy with people who appreciate it. Look to the Uranus transiting Taurus video to get a little bit more of the sense of how you can bring the best of this out. So this was a long one. I hope it wasn't too vague, but this is a very important period for you as a Virgo because it's in your 9th house and it's going to be building into your 10th house. It's when Uranus is in your 10th house, is in Gemini, that you're going to be able to take the relationships that you've built on, and you're going to be able to learn how you can get the most out of the role that you play in these very comfortable, how to bring out the most of your feeling that you are connected to the bigger picture, that you are a part of the nature of humans interrelating with each other and having psychological wellness and being reliable and being a solid pillar for people to talk to and to cry on and to lean on. You are going to start finding people in this period, Uranus and Taurus, you'll find people who bring that out of you and give you this feeling and this sense. And then once Uranus is in Gemini, you're going to be able to start to say, how can I now take this energy and funnel it into my 10th house, funnel it into some worldly activity that is constantly changing and mutable, but is still one solid, useful thing that is now on a world stage that I can apply professionally in bigger ways. And that's what Uranus and Gemini is going to bring you. And then eventually it'll get into Cancer, which is going to be your 11th house. And, you know, this is how just the ball is going to keep rolling, right? He'll eventually get gains out of the pathways that you found in the 10th house, which you've been enjoying because you've explored them joyously now in the 9th house in Uranus. I feel like I go forever on this one, so I'm going to end it here. Let me know what you thought. Let me know if you thought that was just kind of too complex. I'm getting better at doing all these videos, so I'd like to know what you think. I'm Dustin Cormier for How to Rock Astrology. Yes. I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, all that stuff, and tell me what you think. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Nice to see you today. My name is Dustin Cormier. Welcome to How to Rock Astrology. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about Uranus and Taurus in the chart of a Libra rising. What is going on with this transit of Uranus being in Taurus for you as a Libra rising? I would contend that this is important to you because Libra also rules Venus, just like Taurus also rules Venus. So this would be important to you in regards to dealing with the 8th house necessary addition to what your 1st house naturally does, which is diplomacy, the fair and detached organization of resources between the individual as well as their group. That's the 8th house. Libra is really, that's kind of Libra's bread and butter because that's how it expands its world. It's connected to the 8th house, of that being Taurus, because they're both ruled by Venus. So while Uranus is in Taurus, you will be learning themes related to merging with people, to merging with groups, and what is the intrinsic values that you are unconsciously familiar with and have been building on since puberty, from age 0 to 14. That's the age bracket of what Taurus represents. It's a fractal. Taurus is a fractal, the age of 7 to 14. The planets that are in there, the sign it's in, that is a fractal which represents for you the 8th house. Puberty, the onset of dealing with intrinsic energy dynamic values that you hold in your biology, and using that as well as understanding those of others in order to attract yourself to others, knowing what is the Taurus of other people and how what you are can support them in their mission to feel good and to attract abundance in their lives. You as the Libra, the evaluator, the psychological instigator, can really see what is the essence of several individual psyches, what are they looking for, and how can the interests of one be merged with the interests of another to create a sum greater than its parts. This is, Libra does this, brings these to the top, and then people start to lean on Libra as the instigator of these mergers because they have this psychological awareness. The only caveat is that Libra, being the natural 7th sign, will possibly compromise your ability to deliberate, to lead, to tell people when this is a good merger, when you two should get together. You two should get together. I've always thought you'd be good together. You know, Libra does these things. But also even when dealing with a boss, you know, a boss could lean on Libra to be the ambassador of their brand, who says, you know, our brand is dedicated to this. You know, Libra learns all about what the company is all about and then says, this is what our brand is all about, and we would be good to merge with this business because they have this type of material for this amount of money. It's a good quality product good enough for our intentions in this company. So we should combine with them, use their thing, put their brand on it, and include their brand as a part of our project. Make that merger because the elements fit each other. Now the key here again is that the Libra has to have the knowledge and, more importantly for what we're talking about today, the psychological capacity to know that our company has value and that your company would do well to involve yourself with what we have as a value, with what we take as a value. And this will come out as Leo in your 11th house, if you understand that. The 11th house is larger groups and organizations. Leo is your natural 11th house, which means the way that your sun best expands on itself and expresses itself is by doing this great merger of various interests, various group interests in particular. You take lots of groups and groups and groups and groups, and there will be a bigger group that you can merge all these groups with. Even having like several businesses, being an ambassador who can go and talk to several businesses and say, I have this mutual plan that's good for all of us, but we need to instigate it, and if we do, it'll be good for all of us. Here's why. This is the Leo coming through the Libra, seeing a shared ideological value or an intention or a world need, a humanitarian impulse coming from the needs of the world, an Aquarian sense. This is the 11th house for Libra. Hopefully I'm not going too all over the place, but for you as a Libra, you are good at bringing groups together, knowing their elements and their essence, and fitting them to a singular purpose, while also managing the individual needs of each group, each business, each company, each project, whatever multifaceted group of groups it is that you're talking about making. It could even be a band, a musical band, or like a union. Libra's good with all these sorts of sociological management and organization ploys. Now, a huge part of what we're going to be talking about for you, Uranus and Taurus is bringing you a necessary psychological element which you might have had a hard time with throughout life. Because the first lord of Libra is also the 8th lord, which is Venus. Venus shares its first Libra shares its first house rulership of Venus with the 8th house of Taurus, which means that your first lord is always has to constantly practice doing something, which is trying out being in a group. It's the 8th house vibe. Taurus being in the 8th house, this means Libra extends themselves, serves, suffers, puts themselves in a group, especially if your Venus is good. You will do it selflessly. You will find a group. You'll listen to your intuition as to a group that fulfills you and relates somehow to an intrinsic value of what you are. If you're a man, maybe this relates to something manly that you know all about men who are in this category. Or like if you're a musician, then you know all about music and you're going to deal with other people who are also musicians. And if you have a good Venus, you'll know that you're a musician, so you ought to deal with other musicians because that's something that's meaningful to you. If not, then you might just be a musician, but you go and merge your resources and your investment and your time and energy with some kind of mercantile ploy, like an investment company or like an investment firm. Because even though I'm a musician and that's a value of mine that makes me feel good, this seems more fulfilling. That's if you have like an afflicted Venus, you won't combine your inner fulfillment with the world that you deal with. But you'll learn this as a Libra. Even if you've got a good Venus, you're bound to connect with some groups, some intellectual groups, some people, some companies, some businesses that are unstable. And it's through focusing on that instability that you learn to understand what is it that I need to have, that I need to keep in order to properly assimilate into a group. And how do I assimilate into a group? while also keeping that which is the intrinsic value that I can bring to that group. How do I do that? It's always going to be like, it's going to feel unstable for Libra. But this is part of the beauty of Libra, is that they can, especially if your Venus is not afflicted and well placed, you can manage the instability that any group is bound to be a part of through Venus, through a sense of values. Wherever your Venus is what you're going to use to bring these groups together. Hopefully it's going to be something that is intrinsic to the nature of yourself. You know, if your Venus is in like Virgo, you're going to be analytical about it. You're going to take yourself out of it, and you're going to think like, what makes most sense for what I'm feeling? Which is not how feelings work. Feelings just are what they are, and we think about them after. When you have Venus debilitated in Virgo, this is why Venus is debilitated in Virgo, because Venus says, I feel like I think this works. Or I think that I feel that this works is more of like the debilitation factor. And since you thought first and felt after, then you're going to be like working in this group and you're like, again, I don't know if it feels right, but I think it might work, so I'm going to try it. And you could just keep going like that. If you have a really debilitated Venus, then that's always tough for a Libra, because they'll base their shared groupings with the wrong sense of values. They won't bring it to their own inherent sense of values. So, with all of this being said, this goes to show that Venus, Libra, is bound to involve itself in some groups, and it needs to learn through dealing with groups. That's how Libra learns what I am. It's very much always the Libra thing. You lend it to the 7th house, the 7th from a sign's natural position, in order to learn about the sign, right? Libra's second sign of Taurus is in the 8th house of merging. You need to learn your intrinsic values of what makes you inherently useful and valuable in a group by merging in a group. And so you might find while you're young that you really have, especially Libra men, they have a vague sense of how they can deal with people, because they're holding the bowl for everyone else's expression and they're just watching and being like, I don't know how I relate to this except as the person watching. And then I can talk to this person about how you're like this. Oh, that's interesting. And I could talk to this person. You can be a bit of a chameleon and blend with all these people, take the best of them. Also, you might even just, start to feel like you want to find a group of people that you can relate with, because you can chameleon with so many people that you start to lose already early in your life. All Libras do this. They start to feel like they're losing a sense of what they are. So then they start to think, well, I've got to group my favorite, most fulfilling sense of all these different character types that I see. Which are the ones that fit the grouping that I'm falling into, right? So then you'll be like a skater punk at the first bit of your life, and you'll find all the people that are skater punks. You'll merge with that consciousness through the 8th house, through Taurus, and then you'll find out whether that really is pleasing to you or not. And if it is, then you've got a good Venus, and you'll be able to take that and then eventually start merging with other groups in order to find new things, but you'll get something good out of this grouping. And then you'll start grouping with other groupings, and you'll evolve based on the good enjoyment you got from being a skater punk. If you don't have a good Venus, then you'll be a skater punk. You might think that you got something out of it. You might make deep connections, but eventually it's going to be no singular grouping can ever hold anybody. So you might pour over into another group, and if your Venus isn't good, you're going to lose the thread of all the best parts of all the groupings that you've started dealing with. So that's a huge aspect of what Taurus means to Libra. And that's why this position is very important, because Uranus in Taurus right now is teaching you about yourself. About this part of yourself which evaluates people and even acts based on assumed evaluations, maneuvers people, to do things for the Libra, but also does things for other people and invests a certain proper amount in other people. In fact, we're going to talk about how when Uranus was in Aries, you probably interacted and merged with a whole bunch of new people, but you found them to be unyielding because Uranus is in Aries, and that's your 7th house, and there's nothing to build on. There's no fixed sense of the groupings that you really want to start building with. Now that Uranus is in Taurus, it's going to beg you to beg the question of what type, who do you want to develop yourself as in order to be useful and energetically efficient and even dynamic with those people close to you. It's an interesting thing because this consciousness is developed through your interrelation with many different types of groups. And over time, you will develop a sense of the favorite role that you can play in the intimate sphere as well as in your group. How can you best lead everybody or support the intentions of another? And where is it best to lead when you need to appropriate, but to follow also when appropriate, without just following all the time? You as a Libra are always reading the situation, which means you're likely to properly read 80% of the situations, but only, or let's say like you can properly read 75% of your situations, but only properly act on 25% of them because you're stuck in the mental mode of observing what could be happening instead of actually doing it. Now, if there's one way to break that, when you've got a whole bunch of people leaning on your direction in a group, how do you develop an internal sense of psychological self-confidence with which to know that there's all these people here looking for some directive, they're leaning on me, I've got to deliver something. Now, am I going to just crumble at the seams and try to please everybody, but end up just looking like a flake who has no sense of pertinent self-direction and confidence in your choosing where everybody ought to go? Are you going to crumble? Or are you going to have faith that you've been developing the proper sense that you are good at doing this direction? You are good at taking charge when it comes to either leading a relationship or suggesting things for the leader in a relationship to properly move things around. Your place is the support, whether it's the principal initiator is still a supporter to those who support, but those who support the principal initiator in any group are also part of the sport. It's always mutual. And you need to be able to hold steady in a company in order to be a good host, in order to say, what should we do, everybody? And you listen and you hear everybody's thoughts. What can ground that sense of that? Remember, think of this as Leo. The Leo in you wants to instigate everybody's opinions and pull them towards an identity, a group directive that's going to be happy enough for everybody, even if not everybody is pleased. This is the 11th house. This is Aquarius. This is what we have all chosen, right? Does everybody agree? Good. Now let's do this. If you have a strong sun, which is hard for a Libra, if you have a strong sun, though, you'll be able to do this. But what will make no matter what, whether you got a good sun or not, what is going to bring attractiveness and effectiveness and make it less hard to do that leading? People will trust you more. People will find you more effective if your individual groupings, your individual group, your immediate employees that are just below you, and also your boss that is just above you, your manager as opposed to your boss. It's your manager who you have to have a relationship with in a constructive way so that you can, and if you feel good constantly with your manager, then the manager might tell your boss that you're a really good worker. But how do you develop this relationship of a positive, I'm confident in whatever you need, manager, I'm here to help you, and your manager says, yes, you are always there, reliable, and you always have the right things to say, and you have this confidence. What is going to enrich this confidence for the sun in you? It's Taurus. It's your immediate, intimate relationships, based on what you are. Taurus and your 8th house and your Venus. It's your capacity to manage directives in the personal intimate sphere is what your larger group directive, acting as an ambassador for your company, that's what it builds off of. It builds off the personal confidence that you employ in the personal sphere. Because if you, like I've written this down to describe this, if you base your relationship on the wrong things, let's say if you have Venus afflicted and you find a lover who you fall in love with in a way and want to relate with and get married to, because they perhaps, let's say, for the wrong reasons. Like, let's say they can help you get farther in your work, but you don't actually feel a sense of love for them, but they can help you get farther in your work. Now, let's say you marry this person purely based on that. Then you have to lean on this person to trust that they will, do what makes you happy, ultimately for the both of you. But if you see that they don't listen to you, and they're mean and they put their fist down and they say, no, I'm telling you that this is how this relationship is going to be. If you let them do that and you let them walk all over you and you don't find the confidence in yourself to express why you think confidently that this is what's going to be best for both of us, our shared ideas, our shared vision of what we want to be, if you can't express that in the personal sphere, then how can you expect to express that when another company is putting pressure on you, or your boss is your brand is getting pressure from other companies to merge, and you get the sense that this company is not good for us to merge with, but this company is. And you know why. You have the good, concise reasoning, which would help your group, your company, even your group of groups, If you're an ambassador for your company, if you have other companies who are willing to work together, as long as someone can show the way as to why it would be useful. If you, in the personal sphere, can't stand up to your lover, how can you expect to stand up to the pressures of a bunch of people leading on you to lead them in a greater organization? The confidence that you constantly build in your intimate, familiar energy dynamics is what provides the stage for the larger group maneuvering that Libra is always very capable of doing. So let's just take a little bit to digest what's going on here based on a little reading from Isabel M. Hickey. This is Astrology, a Cosmic Science. One of the reasons that we're talking about Leo in particular is because, as we have noted in our video on Uranus and Taurus, feel free to check out my Uranus and Taurus video to learn what Uranus means to the sun and what Uranus means to Taurus. But essentially, Uranus, I should talk about this first because I've been saying this in every one of these little intro videos. Uranus is an adjunct of the sun. And the sun is your particular karma, your particular position where you are right now. It's the energy body, and it's the things that you kind of do that constantly inspire you to keep hacking at your life, to live nobly and with the inspiration of a set purpose that relates in some way to your ascendant. In your case, it's the 11th house, which is ironically, it's an egotistical house. If your sun is badly placed here, as a Libra Ascendant, if your sun is ill placed, if it's in the 4th house, which is where the sun loses its Digbala strength, if it's in Libra, if you've got the sun in your 1st house here, then the sun loses, it's looking for the tastefulness of the artifice, the superficial dimensions of its work, and will succumb to the pressures of others instead of developing for itself an identity as a person who can lead larger group dynamics nobly by my signature, If you're a good Libra Ascendant, people will lean on you. If you have or a Libra Ascendant with a good sun, then people will lean on your ability to confidently express as your role as an instigator of messenger for larger group dynamics, because Leo is your 11th house. So that is that's kind of Libra's bread and butter in a lot of ways. Now, no matter what, you are going to get involved with certain companies, certain groups, certain places and things, and you will be involved at some level, in some point, with the dance of Sun, Saturn, Uranus. Okay? Now, what's that dance all about? Again, check out our Uranus and Taurus video to see what I mean by this dance. But essentially, the dance it's musical chairs. The music starts playing, and you start dancing, okay? There's 7 chairs and 10 kids. And you're one of these kids who's walking around. Now, if you have a good Saturn, if you have a good sun, you're going to play the game. And you might lose, but then you'll play the next game. You might lose, and you'll play the next game. And eventually, a good sun will always be a trumpeter for the messages of a greater collective. And that's what Libra with a good sun always does. It takes it upon itself to do that. But you might have to get different positions, different slots with the skill of yours that you have in life. You will. You're bound to start from the bottom somewhere and work your way up through your diligent effort. And it's Saturn which has to put you through the ringer of your diligent effort. And Saturn is generally a good vibe for Libra. As we're going to see, Saturn is your 9th lord. Is that right? No, it's your 5th lord. My apologies. It's your 4th and 5th lord as a Libra. Which means that part of your creative expression, as well as the foundation of your emotions, these are combined through your spirit's projection, your constant intelligent projection of what you love to build in yourself. And it'll be Capricorn-ish, Capricorn Aquarius-ish. So Saturn for you as a Libra Saturn is like there only being 7 chairs. You as a Libra, especially if you have a good Saturn, you're willing to take one of those chairs. Libra doesn't like to take it at someone else's expense. But if it's a fair game, and if no one is going to be offended, and no one will because there's rules. You as a Libra understand the rules of this musical chairs thing. Libra can be a good competitor. They can be flaky when it comes to like, what should we do? I don't know. What's going to be the most fun? What's going to be the most enjoyable thing for the two of us? Libra can be flaky with this regard, but they will play the game. They will make some kind of statement, and they will engage, especially if the sun is good. It's more about the sun. The sun is what keeps you playing the game of life, coming back to this whatever the desire of yours to be a respected instigator of group decisions. That's like your inspiration. Leo is the 11th lord. We're going to talk about that. But that inspiration is by the sun, and hopefully it's your sun is well placed. If it's badly placed, then you've got to find some way to keep yourself involving yourself with your own building towards that goal. Now Saturn has to come in order for you to be respected in the particular place that you want to be a good voice for. Because as much as your Leo ego wants to be the voice, if you don't have a good Saturn, then you will not build on the knowledge, the skills, and the reliability of a certain slot in a certain role. Your boss, you might want to be right now on top of your boss and like on top of everybody to be this perfect instigator of the message. And you want to be better than your coworker or whatever it might be. But you, in order to do that, it's time, man. And you, thankfully, as a Libra, are comfortable with the slow accretion of time's evidence of your diligent building on the sense of the security structure that you want to have in your life. Libras enjoy hacking at that because they enjoy Aquarius. That's their 5th house. They enjoy hacking at things that they know will be useful to them through a through some kind of form, through some kind of field of practice, through a company, through the rules and laws and directives of that company. These are all very Aquarian things. And Libra gets good at knowing what is the intention of this company or this brand. What is it for? What is the market for it? What's trending in regards to, what is trending that relates to this thing? What is it like in the stock market? How do people perceive it? These are all things that Libra loves to just employ generally, but particularly to their purpose. And Saturn will put you in a specific company, and that's a chair. You'll get a job if you've got a good enough Saturn. If you got a good enough Sun to think that life's worth living and I'm going to play this game and get somewhere, it's A. Then B is Saturn. You're going to get a certain chair that says this is your slot right now, and this is what you're going to hang on. Just, you've got the chair for now, okay? Uranus is the thing that says, okay, bleep, next phase of the game. Now there's only 5 chairs and 7 people. 2 people are going to miss out on this game. If your Saturn is strong enough, you have to fasten to the next thing, especially if you have the inspiration to keep playing the game. And Uranus is the one that upends everything and says, sorry, you got to keep spinning. You got to find the best way to get the sun's expression. Because Uranus is an adjunct of the sun. Again, I've been saying how in Isabel Hickey's book, this one, she talks about how the Native Americans have this mythos that the sun is actually a hole in the sky. The real sun, the sun that we see in the sky, that big yellow blinding orb, it's actually a hole. The real sun is behind it, and that's Uranus. It's a metaphor. It's an archetypal metaphor for the fact that the true infinite potential of your best expression of all your energy in your body and in your karma and in your progression towards spiritual evolution, the purest potential of what you are is represented by Uranus. The sun is only the holder for the particular body of karma that you've come to in this life. And Uranus says, if you want to tighten the whole thing up in order to get an intuition of how to best use your sun, to best use your ability as the Libra who's the ambassador for so many people, then you have to expand through the transits that Uranus goes through, and as well through as Uranus in your own chart and what it's tied to. Use Uranus always to key into how you can get closer in a better ecstatic, the end goal, the highest heights, peak, the cream of whatever skill your sun is in, wherever your sun is placed in your chart, by its sign, by its health and whatever, as the 11th Lord. It'll always be the 11th Lord. It just depends on what house it's in, which is like the path for you to manifest the 11th Lord gains and desires and fame and name of Libra's 11th house being Leo. It's Uranus that's going to teach you the best ways to bring out the best of the house that it's transiting in order to get you to further understand how you can best employ your sun energy. That's what Uranus is for. It's all about your sun energy, and that's why we put so much emphasis on the sun in these videos. Now, let's just, for a quick word, we're going to look up Leo on the 11th house. Okay? This is just the nature of Libra. So Libra has Leo on the 11th house. There's a great friendliness and outgoingness in Libra. Libra is the diplomat par excellence, for he is friendly and optimistic in his approach to life. Libra has many friends since they like to please. They want to be pleasing and to be liked at a very deep, essential, social, friendly level to everybody, universally. They want to be respected and liked, and they put in a lot of effort to manifest a living self which caters to that as this ambassador. In group associations, Libra shines because he's tactful and conscientious and has a strong sense of justice and goodwill. And these are the things that you want to be known for, revered for, and to use. And this is what Uranus is teaching you to use at your best. The 11th is the house of goals and objectives. Through kindness and the right use of his will, Libra can achieve success. If the sun is afflicted, obstacles and difficulties due to false pride and egotism will stand in the way of achievement. Now, part of the reason for this is because the 11th house is actually considered rather negative, especially in the Vedic sense. This is a picture of a Libra rising. This is Libra Lagna, which is Libra Ascendant. So we can see down here, this is the Ascendant Libra. I get this chart from Ryan my apprenticeship with the Asheville Vedic Astrology apprenticeship program, hosted by Ryan Kurczak. So he is the one who has given me this particular chart. And what is being shown here is that, again, this is the Ascendant, and then every sign up is a sign. If you're a Westerner, Vedic people will understand this, but this is Libra, which means this is Scorpio. This is Sagittarius. That's the 4th house Capricorn, 5th house Aquarius. And we can see that there's green A's and red I's. The green A means auspicious. So this house, whatever the house is auspicious because of the Lord, the ruler, is inherently designed to fit the agenda of the Ascendant. We can see that, I always say, I really try to educate a lot throughout these videos. Libra is an air sign. Libra also rules an earth sign, which is Taurus. Venus rules Libra and Taurus. Those are as an air and an earth sign. Saturn rules Capricorn, an earth sign, and Aquarius, an air sign. Mercury rules Virgo, an earth sign, and Gemini, an air sign. So you notice that the green A's, the auspicious houses for a Libra, all involve either Venus, Saturn, or Mercury. Whereas the fire and water signs are ruled by lords that are antagonistic to the agenda of Libra, right? The fieriness of Mars inhibits you from being a good psychological evaluator. The forthrightness and bluntness of Sagittarius, of Jupiter, stops you from being a conscientious and tactful diplomat. And Leo is prideful, kind of inherently in its own way, but that can be put to good use. For Libra, it's not necessarily so. Leo is kind of like a necessary evil for Libra because it's the 11th house. It's bound to bring in some of that egotism because Libra doesn't want to be seen as a dick. Libra doesn't want to be seen as too much in the spotlight at anyone else's expense, except that the only one time where they do and they love to is as the voice of the larger and collective reason. Because then they don't feel like it's them that's doing it. They feel like they're being a mouthpiece for something bigger than themselves. The only thing they got to watch out for is when they use that position and rub it in people's faces because, hey, listen, FBI, don't worry, I'm a limo driver, don't worry, I'm FBI. It's like if you slam that in people's faces, people are going to start to lose the respect they have for you. And it's this double-edged sword that Libra has to deal with. Now, part of the reason why this transit of Uranus and Taurus is so important for you is because Taurus is going to ground an emotional sense of fulfillment that will take some of the egotism out of your leadership. And this is what's important with Taurus, because you actually have a natural affinity with Taurus. Again, it's even though it's your 8th house, it's still ruled by your Venus, which is how you really get along in life. So Taurus, even though it's unstable, you are used to dealing with the instability of Taurus, of finding values and fixing yourself to a group project even when the values don't exactly all line up. It's Libra that makes it all tactful and diplomatic and says, even though we aren't all going to the same value, the same beating to the same rhythm, we all have an intention and purpose in this group. Now, we all have to cater to that, which means that, you know, when dealing with groups and dealing with this transit, you might find yourself dealing with groups that are unseemly and tough to integrate into one picture. But what is going to deeply help you to do this is, again, your capacity to deal with intimate personal familiars. Because the reason I'm saying that is because notice how the 10th house from any house is the arena through which you can work out the karma of said house. The 10th house from Leo is always Taurus. But thinking of for a Libra rising, the 10th house from the 11th house is the 8th house, which means the 8th house, Taurus, your capacity to understand your own intrinsic value and what you expect to use as a seductive energy dynamic in your personal sphere is going to ground your capacity as an identity, as an ambassador who can do the same for your boss as an ambassador of a group company, of a larger edict, a larger derivative. Okay? Now, again, as I said, if you know, the point I want to rein in here is that if you can't manage to seductively maneuver your partner or your children's support in a decision, how could you expect to manage the pressures of a business merger or any kind of group correlate directive, even when you're a host at a party? You know, like if you can't do the thing that you so love to do as a Libra, which is to be a cool a host with engaging activities for all your people to engage with, if you just throw them all on the ground and say, hey, everybody, so like enjoy, I'm just going to sit here and hope you all kind of enjoy it, and there's no program, there's no itinerary, people are just going to be like, what the hell are we doing here? Should we just start picking things up? And maybe that's part of your vibe. You know, maybe that's part of what Libra does at home, you know, but the point here is that if you can't seductively, easily, with just a flick of the wrist, garner support from your immediate loved ones close to you, then you might have to think about, you know, maybe you can fix something about your relationship with your partners and with your family and with the ground, with the people that you involve your financial resources with. You might have to start asserting yourself if you're too flaky, or calming down some assertiveness if you're too assertive. If you can't garner that kind of support or properly use to support other leaders, if you can't trust the leadership of your partner because they will flake, because you didn't allow the mutuality, you didn't trust their direction and leadership, you know, as per appropriateness. These are the kind of things that you're going to be learning about. Because if you can't if you can't get your partner to trust your leadership, and if you can't trust your partner's leadership, what's going to happen in the real world in a business venture when you have to be leaned on for your support, but also for your leadership when others are supporting? Now, when Uranus was in Aries, again, you might have found that I'm just looking for the concise thing here, and I guess I haven't written it down. Well, Libra's consciousness is rooted in the 7th, and it's rooted in Aries. This is like when you were born, Aries was the first thing you were dealing with, and it was about others. You just started actively dealing with others, and that is a deeply important part of Libra's identity, believe it or not. Of course, Libra is the first house, Aries is the seventh house. It's almost like you're saying the same thing. Because everything in astrology, if there's a yin, the yin opens its mouth when the yang closes its mouth, and the yang closes its mouth when the yin opens its mouth. So Aries being in the seventh shows that a huge part of Libra's identity and their ability to move, and their movement at its essence, is the merging with people, kind of at a felt, expressive, I hope this is going to work level. Now, when Uranus was transiting Aries, you might have merged with lots of different people and found that you found them to be possibly overbearing because they take so much of your energy, because you thought in this moment, Uranus, while it was in Aries, was like, hey, here's an opportunity for you to get out of Pisces, get out of your lifelessness, get out of your lack, when Uranus was in Pisces, you were being too rigid in thinking or feeling or being empathic about your connections with others. Then Uranus came into Aries and blew all that away. And since about 2011, you've been saying, oh my God, forget being too... Now I can be more discerning about others in my relationship with them. And you've built probably you've sown lots of wild oats since 2011 with Uranus in Aries. Now, hopefully they've been good ones. If your Mars is strong, then you will have found different groupings through your initiative of Mars, of your seventh house. Now you're finding that Uranus is in Taurus, and you're asking yourself, what intrinsic values have I always had? What intrinsic values do I have now? And what have I always had? And what can I learn through the groups that I'm in about how I can add value based on what I am in this group? How can the group make my effort easier? That's what Uranus and Taurus is telling you. And even bigger question, are these groups that I've found myself in making my life easier, making my job easier, making my Venus feel better, making myself more confident? And is this giving me the confidence that would eventually cause me to be the open-hearted leader of group directives through Leo in my 11th house? What about the groups that I'm in, how do I feel about them? Can I assert myself? And am I asserting myself too much? Is it the group's problem, or is it my problem? Of course, this is the constant question that Libra's probably dealing with anyway, but this time is teaching you the specifics. You've involved yourself in these groups, just do it, play the game. This is your 8th house. You can't really expect it to go any positive direction on the results end of things. But if you have a good Venus, it will teach you something. You might lose some of the groupings. You might incur and develop deeply into groupings that you never would have thought would be a good idea. But no matter what does happen, you're going to learn in this period about which are the best groups to be in and what is the best of yourself, what's important in yourself that you should hold on as a psycho-energetic dynamic, which can make your ability in this group, your capacity to assert yourself. What can I learn about my own sexuality, my intimate familiars, very much my personal 4th house sort of like life, my family, my children, even my ancestry. 2nd house relates to ancestry and to just the culture that you were born into, not the culture that you find. That's more of a 9th house thing, but it's a culture that you were born into. What can you bring from the culture, from the family values that have always been instilled in you, which are useful in your management and diplomacy and energetic attractiveness within your particular familiars, which will eventually lead to attractiveness, confidence, and abundance in your overarching 11th house sun. That's what Uranus in Taurus is teaching you, particularly in this period. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if it didn't come through as clear as I would have liked or whatever. So it can be tricky to get all of these things exact and precise. 50 minutes is a long time, but, you know, I like to think it's part of the fun. Hopefully you guys dug that. I'm Dustin Cormier for How to Rock Astrology. Let me know in the comments what you thought, whether you have any specific questions, and I'll try to see if I can answer them as time comes along. Thank you for watching, folks. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Nice to see you today. My name's Dustin Cormier. Just gonna get myself in check here. How's it going? Nice to see you. Today we're talking about, this is How to Rock Astrology. We are talking about Uranus in Taurus for the likes of a Scorpio rising, such as yourself, or perhaps a loved one who has Scorpio rising. Welcome to the life-changing moment. This particular period holds some special resonance for you, my Scorpio friend, because Taurus is, of course, an angular sign for you as a Scorpio rising. Taurus being your 7th house in the equal house system. I'm a Tropical Vedic Astrologer, so I tend to consider that the house cusps are important, but what is always universally true of every rising sign is that in the equal house system, the signs from your rising sign are considered the house lords, which carry the energy of the associated house. So even if your 7th house cusp falls in Aries, or if it falls into Gemini, Taurus is still always the 7th sign from Scorpio, and it will have a 7th house relationship with Scorpio. For more about that, check out the rest of my channel. It's a very tropical Vedic idea. Feel free to ask me more questions to discuss more on that. So, you are a Scorpio, and Uranus is now transiting you at some point soon your 7th house cusp, as well as relating to what Taurus means for you as a Scorpio, which is really kind of more the derivation I'm getting at for this video. So, in order to talk about what Uranus means to any chart, we need to involve the sun, because Uranus is an adjunct of the sun. I've been doing these videos, and in every video I like to describe Uranus as an intuition of the highest insight of how to use your sun in your chart, with all the aspects and all the things that relate to your sun, as well as to Leo, because Leo is the sign that channels the energy of the sun. So Leo is going to be important to Uranus is important to the unfoldment of Leo, and Leo is the center of your chart. It's the thing that keeps you playing the game. It's the central energy field of the soul, the Atma, that charges and pushes forward the energy that is needed to burn away bad karma and to use the karma and energy you've been given constructively in a way that reflects on the soul, on the person, the psyche, the enlivened psyche, which seeks to find some kind of center in yourself that is going to be useful through all time. That's what the sun represents. It's radiant, it's constant. The nature of what enlivens you to be inspired to engage your ambitions and aspirations doesn't change. That's the sun, and for you this is equally important as a Scorpio, because the sun rules your 10th house, the all-important 10th house. The 10th house is our house of activity, constant activity in the world. And it is the stage upon which the karma of the first house and of yourself really gets worked out. Scorpio uses the work, the sun, the engagement in their passionate thing that they do, whatever that is in the world, especially as a height of power, a height of status. Scorpio wants to get to some kind of status and feel adored for the ambitious, focused work that they do in their particular field, in their particular slot, whatever they do for their boss, their company, or for themselves as an entrepreneur, for their family, whatever it is that's important to the Scorpio. They like to have a consistency of that hard work and engagement because it is the best doorway for them to expunge impurified parts of their energy field and in themselves. The sun's important for everybody, but it's deeply important for Scorpio rising because it's the 10th house. So, today we're going to talk a little bit about how Uranus and Taurus, it's its own dimension. It's going to affect your 7th house, which is important to you on a general note, your partnerships and etc. And if you're looking for what this might mean for your partnership, you're in the right video for sure. But I want to take what it means to your relationship in your 7th house and consider that as an adjunct to your 10th house. Because guess what? The 10th house from any sign is, again, the stage upon which you work out the karma of that sign. Now, you can also make the 10th house of any house. For example, I like to say the 10th house from the 7th house is the 4th house. Because we work out the karma of dealing in business and contracts on the stage of our personal foundations, on our personal intimate relationships. If we can work out personal interrelationships, that's the karma, that's the stage for working out the karma of how we deal with business contracts and marriages. So we're actually right now, we are dealing with the 10th from the 10th, which is the 7th. So there's an interesting thing going on here, where the natural 10th house is using the 10th from itself to ground and work out the karma needed to get skill with Scorpio's 10th house. And that is Scorpio's 7th house. So by working out what's happening in Taurus and what's happening with your partnerships, you can work out the psychological karma that's needed to fully put yourself on the world stage or on the company stage or on whatever stage is going to allow you to do that thing that you are so ambitious and excited to do, which is to express your ability to hold a valuable functional role in something, whatever that might be, some kind of worldly activity, some kind of skill. It usually is a useful function of something, a skill, degree, knowledge, education that you've built up, whatever it is that you use in the world to engage your inspiration. You're going to need to use your 7th house, Taurus, relationship, business contracts, marriage, partnership of any sort. That is how you use that, the 7th house, to work out your skills and getting the best out of your ability to do what you want to do for the world as someone with Leo in the 10th house. So let's work out a little bit of what this is all about. Taurus is the 10th from the 10th. The main question of this whole episode is, what can Uranus and Taurus teach Scorpio about their sun? Now, Taurus is teaching you something about the sun because it's in the 10th from your 10th house. Taurus is always the 10th house from Leo. But this is we're also learning, what does Uranus and Taurus teach Scorpio about their sun in general, because Uranus relates to the sun. And how might that be, you ask? Well, throughout these videos, I've been mentioning that Isabel Hickey mentions in her book, in a very brief little moment, she mentions that the Native American mythos, it's just a funny little aside, the Native American mythology suggests that the sun is actually just a hole in the sky. It's a hole wherein karmas can pour in and out and move through and substantiate. But the power, the infinite pure potential of the light that's pouring through that hole is actually Uranus. This it's a metaphor. It's mentioned once briefly in Isabel Hickey's book, but I think it's a perfect description for the fact that Uranus is this, check out our Uranus and Taurus video if you want to learn more about how Uranus relates to all the signs and just what it means that it's in Taurus. Uranus is this, it's an intuition, a metaphysical continuum of the timeless nature of progressive soul evolution, which permeates all organisms, all consciousness, in particular to human awareness. We can intuit the best way through Uranus how to use our specific sun energy, because Uranus is like the implied best way to use it, to use your sun at its best. Now, if you were all Uranus, then you might have this sun, and since it's your 10th lord, it might mean you have to just use all the glory. Uranus might just charge you up to get the most out of your sun, your inspiration, your ambition, your desire to be something special amongst your peers in the world. But, of course, you and I both know that astrology is not purely founded on just pure energy potential of Uranus and an immediate karmic energy field of the sun. If it was that way, then you, as a Scorpio, could just perfectly strategize a plan for your domination of all the other humans in the way that Scorpio would like to. Of course, we know that's not how it works, because there are other people. There are other Scorpios out there. And, of course, you are more than just your ability to project ambitiously towards the goals that you so desire ambitiously to manifest. You are also a psychological body that has an energy field, an emotional energy field, which needs to feel fulfillment on a personal, domestic level in order for you to get the best of that 10th house, even though we all know that Scorpio really uses its domestic reality in order to fuel as a vessel for the attainment of the glory that they seek to express. I'm a Scorpio, Sun and Mars, and I got Pluto there. I'm a Leo rising, and my Sun, which is my Ascendant Lord, is in Scorpio. So I kind of know that this is how we work. Don't feel the need to bullshit a bullshitter. That's kind of deeply how it is. Although Scorpio, part of the ambition that Scorpio seeks to manifest in the world is the accomplishment of the goal of being great in its role in every little regard, including its capacity to hold down a relationship. So, relationships are more than just a vessel for getting out your 10th house Leo, your sun, your glory in the world. But they're all kind of interrelated. Your relationship speaks to you about your own validation of your self-accomplishment. And this is going to partly why this Uranus in transit Taurus is important for you, because your partnerships ground in a deep way the emotional validation that you need in order to feel an emotional equilibrium, and to take that equilibrium and throw it at whatever objectives and desires you want to get consistently and constantly and with direction and purpose. You need that emotional reality. You need a marriage, partnerships, business contracts,
in order to get the most out of it. Although if you don't want to be a partner person who gets married or anything like that, you don't have to. There's a lot of Scorpios that aren't. Although you will learn a lot by partnering with people in the intimate sphere, because again, Taurus, your 7th house, is the 10th from your 10th. Taurus is the sphere, your 7th house is the platform through which you work out the unconscious, the kinks of consciousness that cause you to go up and down in your ambition. Because we know you're the best when you are going for your ambition, but you can't squeeze blood from a stone. If there's no emotional volition, if there's no support, if no one is, how much better can you be at what you do if you have a loving connection of people who trust where you're going and are actually adoring you for the leadership that you're doing? How much better are you at doing it when you feel that your given choice as a leader, as a director, or as a follower, or as a communicator in a bigger group larger than yourself? If people adore you for that role, then it brings out that inspiration that much more, levels out the emotional field of your energy field, and allows you to stay constant in that solar sun reckoning that you've been working out. So now the whole point of this whole, we need more than just Uranus's pure potential of what your sun could be, and the sun's present karma of your projections and your goals and your ambitions. There's something in the middle of these two which allows the sun to reduce the purgative, the unseemliness of the ambition. Because Scorpio can be all ambition, and they'll burn themselves out. This is just what it is. Everybody's sun is opposite to who? That would balance out your capacity to use the most of your glories, to get the most out of your work that you've chosen to do. Saturn, Aquarius, in the 4th house. Saturn rules your 3rd and 4th house in particular, Capricorn and Aquarius. So this shows that for Scorpio, taken outside of the context of Scorpio, Saturn is important to this dialogue between Uranus and the sun, because Uranus says, hey, you have pure infinite potential, but you need to bite at it in bite-sized pieces that you can take, digest, work out the energy around whatever bite you take out of the world, chew it, assimilate it, and do the job. Because if you were all Uranus, then you could give yourself 10,000 projects and never finish any of them. It's Saturn in you which shows you a limit. Saturn gives you an emotional limit. A limit to how much energy you can throw at your ambitions and objectives. Saturn is the discipline to constrict yourself to bite-sized accomplishments that add up to a bigger accomplishment and constancy. Saturn is your ability to be conscripted to some kind of disciplined regimen or role, or some kind of slot in the world, in a company. Might not be your own precious entrepreneurial company that you would prefer to work at, but you might just have to for a while before you develop on your reigning supreme ambition that you might have. You will have to work with people and amongst people. And this is like Saturn, this is for you. Working amongst people is a way to conscript yourself to an emotional rhythm, a fulfillment rhythm, because Saturn is your 4th house. You need to find things outside of yourself to conscript your emotional foundations. So Saturn is this thing which gives the sun a present state of experience. The sun desires to play the game of musical chairs. Remember musical chairs? We've been playing with this metaphor in my Uranus in Taurus video. Look that up to get more out of this metaphor. Essentially, when you play musical chairs, the music starts playing and the sun plays. It's your sun. If you have a good sun, which you probably do if you're Scorpio rising, even if it's ill placed, you're going to keep playing. There might be things obstructing you from playing the game, but ultimately the sun keeps you ambitious to do what you do in the world. And that's kind of the center of your experience, and you want to enrich that. Well, you need Saturn to give you this state of experience, because if you don't accomplish little things, then you won't accomplish anything at all. You'll just launch into some big epic venture that, like, who are you even going to be able to deal with that through? Who's going to know that that was a good effort of investment for you? This is what's key about Scorpio, and I'm going to say this probably more than once, is that Scorpio knows better than anybody that business, it's not just in the effort that you have, it's not just the ambition that you have, it's also in who you know. And how do you define, what is the realm of who you know? It's Taurus. It's your 7th house. You can have all the ambition to have some great place in the world that you want. But if you don't shake hands with the right people behind closed doors, no one is ever going to know the glory that is your sun. You can have a great sun, and you can do great work. You could be a writer who's a brilliant scientific mind who just has the whole picture of human conscious perfectly personified. You could have the answer to all of life's great mysteries that you've written down in a novel. But if you don't know how to do novel things with partners and with friends, and get with these partners and say, you know what, maybe we should make a publishing house, because we all know that our work is good, and we can all do little goals for each other, selling our mutual books in this publishing house, and telling people about it, getting people's attention to our publishing house, so that when you, as the Scorpio, put your masterful book in this publishing house that you and your friends helped generate, your friends are leaning on the great work that you did. Not only that, but also your commitment to this publishing house that you're all working through together. And if you commit to that, it will be the publishing house that takes the work that you do and puts it on a grand sphere for everybody to see. Or if you're a musician, you're a brilliant musician, you got all the skills, and you spend all your time perfecting the art of what it is to play the most delicious, juicy guitar solo. It's all sun, all Uranus, and Uranus is saying you could do more with that. Put more effort into your guitar playing and your brilliance of it, right? Uranus might do that if it was in Leo for you, but right now that's not what it's doing. Right now, Uranus is in Taurus, and it's saying you've been spending all this time possibly developing on skills, on worldly things. Now the time has come for you to be savvy in relationships and marriage and business and contracts, so that you can tell your manager or the guy that works at the bar down the street, you can roll your shoulders back and say, hey, what's up, sexy? Guess what? I'm kick-ass, and you deserve to have me on your stage. And you got to shake hands behind closed doors, be resourceful, and to know that what you are and the resources that you have, the time, the ability, the people that you know, be resourceful. Call a friend who's in another band who's been there and say, hey, pal, I'm just looking to get in this bar. I wonder if you can, do a little schmoozy moose for me. And the person calls the bar and says, hey, Dustin Cormier is this great guitarist, and you should let him on your stage. That's like a 7th house way to get out the richness of the skill that you've been developing as a musician. You can take this in many examples, in business. If you're a business owner and you want to merge with another business partner, the two of you want to take on the world with your mutual business ploy, but you have to be able to talk to them, and you have to be able to deal with the clout. And if they think that you're a schlub, if they don't think that your 7th house is well worked out, if you have a failing marriage and you come with a crappy car, or and you're talking to them and they're like, okay, so what are you into? Or they're trying to talk to you at a mutual level, and you say, look, I don't want to talk about what you have to say, I just want you to listen to my brilliant presentation about why this is going to be good for us. The business partner isn't going to trust you because you're trying to force all this clout on them in this weird way. without actually listening to their points. And if you don't have a good relationship with your intimate familiars, Taurus, 7th house, in your business partners, then and anybody that you relate with, if you can't relate in an equilibrium way, no one's going to trust you enough to include you in the contract that is going to put your glorious 10th house sun in front of everybody's eyes. No matter how much you want it to. You can't just lean on your skill. You got to use every house in your energy field, my Scorpio friend. So, Uranus and Taurus holds a lot for you. Oh, I guess I should finish my whole spiel about how you need to use cycles of sun glorifying its skills and getting to the perfect point where you can exactly use the best of your skills or your knowledge or whatever it is. And that takes a lot of effort and time and ambition, and you got to put it towards it. But you have to balance that. What's going to happen is that you're going to learn that you have emotional realities, an emotional foundation, the foundation of your resources and the people around you, and your not ambition, but your ambition is always there, but it's your volition. You could have all the dreams to be the hotshot musician, but if you don't feel good, then you won't have the inclination to practice. And then you won't even have that thing, that great skill to try and schluze with shake hands in the back of things in order to have this thing that you can show to people. So before you can even get that, you need Saturn's sense of limitation. If you work super hard to be a guitarist, you need to have a good Saturn in your 4th house, which means that you chew a little bit and then you say, that's enough. Now I'm going to go do something else. And then next day you chew a little bit and then that's enough. You do something else. Mars is 6th. Scorpio's 6th house is Aries, and Scorpio also relates to this very deeply. It's this constant giving themselves a disciplined sense of schedule. Scorpio's 6th house is Aries. So Mars rules the 1st house and the 6th house. So wherever Mars is already gives you this sense of putting an aggressive yet strictly regimented, disciplined building on these skills, on the mastery of yourself. Mars does that and the Sun does that. Saturn is the necessary bottom where you can deal with that. You can project yourself into all these little routines and habits, but if you don't keep yourself emotionally well and can script yourself to simple things, simple jobs, even talking with people, and it not having to be some big, intense, fantastic moment. If you can't do that, then you might, if you have a crappy Saturn, you might get a marriage partner who loves you for what you have, what you are, and what you can do. But whenever you're with them, you're both just like, oh boy, I can't wait to do this next thing that we're going to do. And then you never actually sit and chill with each other and give each other the rest time and the support and the heartfelt and the security and the I love you and you're deeply enriching to me. You can get the marriage partner. You can get the power that comes from that. But if you don't have a strong 4th house, you're going to come into these emotional waves where you have a nervous breakdown. And you completely break down, and then you can't commit to the 7th house things, and then you cannot engage the ambition of the 10th house things. So the 4th house is also deeply important, and it's Saturn. So Saturn is actually teaching you how to bring out the best of your sun. And your sun, in order to get its constancy, the constant effect of being reliable at this place that you've projected yourself to by shaking hands and being whatever, doing what you do to get the reputation as the best person at this job. If you want to be reliable there, you need to have Saturn knock you out through a few. And you're going to learn this once you're about 28, 29, your Saturn return. If you have a good Saturn, this will be a necessary element of your sun's constancy. So Saturn gives you a rhythm which keeps your emotional volition constant, and it makes you desire to want to do what everything else in the chart is. Makes you desire to want to commit to your business contracts, and makes you desire to want to work on your skills. So the 4th house is important for everybody. But Saturn, for everybody, as regards to the Sun and Uranus, Saturn is what gives you the progression so that now I can push more on my emotional realities. Now that you know, once you get a good sense of Saturn, you know how much you can realistically push yourself, and how much when you can say, okay, I'm losing my relationship, I'm losing my health, my mental health, my physical health. I have to stop this ambition of the sun and come down, find peace, so that I can keep it emotionally virile. Saturn will cause this for you if you don't take care of it, and if you don't accept it as part of the rhythm of Sun, Saturn, Uranus. I guess this would be Uranus here, and then this is Saturn, and this is the Sun. Uranus is pure energy potential. Saturn gives you the Sun, pure energy potential, Uranus. The Sun, the Sun should be in the middle, actually. The Sun is your particular thing that you got going on now, and then Saturn is the limitations that you need to digest in a functional cyclical rhythm, so that your Sun can come up. You can go up 3, forward 3 steps, down 2 steps, forward 3 steps, down 2 steps, forward 3 steps. That ends up being a curve of constant worldly progression and progression on yourself, and finding out how to best use your Sun. This is what Uranus is always teaching us. For you, right now, since Uranus is in Taurus, this is teaching you about your Sun. That's what Uranus is for. And it's going to involve, in a certain way, Saturn, because you need to figure out your emotional volition and your limits before you can, or while you learn how to deal with contracts. But essentially what this period is really trying to show you as a Scorpio is that since Taurus is angular, it's your 7th house, this will directly affect your immediate relationships and partnerships of all sorts. This is what Uranus and Taurus is mostly deeply bringing to you. So, what exactly does that mean for Scorpio? Well, you have to consider that this really has to do with how Venus is placed in your chart. If you've got a really good Venus, then this period might just simply deliver a redeeming confrontation with your partner that you might already have, also your business partners, so that you can secure your own career psyche and physical health, and this frees up emotional clutter to focus on the immediate procedure of your Sun. What I mean by that is that if you've got a good Venus, then you've probably got good partners already, and Uranus and Taurus is trying to teach you how to honestly relate with them. Like, you might actually come to a breaking point where you need to tell your business partners, I've come to a place in my life where I thought that this was my intention, and my reality, my intentions are changing, because now you might feel like you need to get more out of your business contracts, to get more worth and value out of those that you choose to start doing business with. This is what Taurus is to Scorpio. Scorpio persuades marriage and business contracts to entrust him with an end goal. That's what Scorpio does. I'm just going to take a little peeky-poo at this picture here. This is Scorpio Lagna, which is the same thing as the ascendant sign, the rising sign. And we can see here, this chart, I like to teach while I'm on these things. This chart comes from Asheville Vedic Astrology's apprenticeship program. If you're a Westerner, you can still get something out of this. This is Scorpio here. So, Scorpio's first, Sagittarius is second, Capricorn third, Aquarius fourth, Pisces fifth. The green A's represent auspicious signs which coincide with the agenda of the ascendant. So we can see that for a Scorpio, Sagittarius, Pisces, Aries, Cancer, and Leo are are auspicious and are easy for Scorpio to deal with. We can see Leo is something that Scorpio is naturally attuned to because Scorpio's ruler is Mars, the noble warrior, who is the right-hand man of the sun, Leo. So Scorpio and Leo naturally get along, but Venus is actually neutral to Scorpio. Venus rules the 7th house and also the 12th house. It relates to your emotional equilibrium in the 12th house sense, but also partnerships. You lean on your partnerships in order to find the emotional equilibrium, which can cause you to get through the tensions that your life brings to you. And you can sublimate those tensions in a way that's more harmonious, either in your relationship where your partner doesn't always act in ways that you want them to, and that can cause tension for you. But if you have a good Venus, you can understand that and even derive a nourishment from getting through that tension. If you have a good Venus, you'll have a sense that I accept this partner for their flaws because I know that what they bring to me is worth it, and they probably will, because if you've got a good Venus, you'll do that. If you don't have a well-placed Venus, then your partner's differences to you will cause you tension and agitation, which will probably ruin your equilibrium, and you won't get a sense of purpose out of that agitation, and it'll frustrate you. So, Taurus is important for everybody, but we can see Taurus is the 7th lord and the 12th. It's considered inauspicious for a Scorpio Lagna. Venus is considered evil. Evil in the sense that it's a necessary evil. You have to deal with partnerships and the tensions that they bring, including in your partnerships, your business partnerships, if you want to succeed. Because, of course, we know, again, that Scorpio uses their partnerships as ground with which to fasten themselves to greater handshakes with powerful people. They're always wanting to do that, and they cannot do that. No one will trust them if they don't have a strong sense of relationships in their interpersonal relatability. Now, if you're a solo Scorpio, Uranus and Taurus might bring you visions of how partnering with certain people is important to you and how you might need to learn to deal with it in order to deal in business better. So this could be something as simple as dating. Uranus and Taurus might be a good time for you to go on dates. It might attract people who might be attracted to who you are. But more than likely, it'll be an internal compulsion. Likely is the case if you're a solo Scorpio, this will give you an internal compulsion to start at least relating. Not necessarily partnering, but like go on Reddit and talk with people. Talk with people on Facebook. Make statements, see what people say, and then relate with them back and just see how all of that goes. If you're a solo-ish person, you'll learn the strength that partnering with people, or you'll intuit how it can help you express your sun. This is what Uranus does. Uranus helps you have an intuition of how partnering with people right now in Taurus, partnering people will bring you more abundance, more ease in your activities, better deals, better terms for your partnerships, and give you the self-worth to know that you can derive more from your business partnerships and associations. You can go farther if you have an intrinsic sense of self-worth, which is experienced. You can't just read this in a book and say, okay, I know. You can't read about relationships in a book and say, okay, this is well digested part of my great strategy to take over the world as a Scorpio. You can't do that. At some level, you have to actually learn to relate with people use your psychological mind to understand their wants and needs, and practice engaging in how you can support those wants and needs while also laying out your own agenda, getting something from them while also giving something from them, in a way that you are both mutually satisfied at the level of what your natural self-worth is, your value. What inherent value do you bring to anybody? This is what Taurus teaches you as a Scorpio specifically. And you might be very fixed on it. You might be very rigid. Scorpio can be rather rigid with their sense of how they give position to others. A male might consider that the partner is just like a vessel for their ambitious gains. A female Scorpio, or if you're a non-binary person, the yin dimension of the Scorpio psyche is that you will use your partner as an anchor in their psyche, as an anchor, which you value, and you want to use your efforts to bring the unconscious data of this person, kind of tie a bit of a spider web around them so that you can support them and love them, but also use their energy and their strength and their volition to your advantage, energetically, abundantly, and everything. Typically, if you have the female dimension of Scorpio consciousness, it means that your ambition is to serve within the relationship. And if that's the case, your partner should validate that. You should, because you're a Scorpio. Your sun is seeking to be the best in the world at something. And if you're not an aggressively leader-oriented, initiation-oriented type of personality, you don't need to be in order to be a Scorpio. You can be a server who helps people, but you're probably going to delve into someone's psyche and lead by suggestion and seduction and by your own sense of self-worth and truth as to what would be good for the mutuality of the partnership. If you seek to serve within the relationship, you should have a partner who validates that and who appreciates that. And if you don't, your Uranus and Taurus is going to make you question it. Again, whether you're someone who seeks to express themselves within a relationship or someone who's ambitious outside of the relationship, your partner should understand that, validate that, and communicate that, and also you have to validate their relationship to that. Meaning if they are also somebody who's ambitious outside the relationship, you have to figure out your place in that. Is the relationship worth holding on to? And if it is, how can you bring out the richness of your own self, of your own familiar, energetic energy exchange dynamic with them? So you can bring out the most of yours while also catering to them. It's always going to be a bit of a give and take because we're talking about the 7th house here. So there's a lot of opportunity here to redeem Scorpio's over pushiness. And it will be your capacity to relate with others in familiar ways, and also in your ability to attract abundance simply by what you are. If you are a leader, then bring that into your immediate partnerships and relationships. If you're a solo Scorpio, find out how relating to people can bring out a sense that just by being what you are already in a fitting pocket for attracting somebody who harmonizes with that psychological dynamic. If you're a leader, see how you can push your leadership on people so that they follow you, but also find out how you can enrich them in order to keep them with you, and what their needs are in order that you can best maneuver and direct them. If you're a directing, commanding type of person, and you can also find out what are the limits of that. And it's the same way with the other side. If you're a supportive person, find out how you can best support your partner with no fear. In fact, to be ambitious, to support your partner, and also to keep your dignity. Find a way in which you can do this so that your partner doesn't undermine you, but still holds the space for you to support them, right? This is what Uranus and Taurus is teaching you. Because if you can support your partner by asking them, have I supported you? Is there anything else I can do for you? Get them to give you things to do if you value yourself as a doer in the relationship. Just get them to do it. Develop a dynamic where you ask them to ask you for things to do. And this will give you the validity that you've been probably dying for in your relationship if you're this type of person. And if your partner, after hearing all of this, does not agree to any of it, whether it's your marriage partner or your business partners, then Uranus and Taurus might be teaching you that there is something about the partnerships you've attracted which is not working for your overall flow. It's hard because maybe it is. If you do have good partners and you're willing to see through your marriage and your business partners, then what this period is teaching you is that you need to communicate better about your needs in this thing. And if your partner is not willing to deal with that, you might just have to just ditch them. This is a good opportunity for you to make those decisions, because no matter where you are in your life, this opportunity now is really getting you to get out the best of what you are at an intrinsic value level, at a sexual level, at a leadership level, at a server level, at a supporter level, whatever way that you orient yourself to get the best of your solar ambition in some kind of skill, some kind of functional thing. It's going to take your Taurus. It's going to take all of these things to best relate with people, with partners, and these partners are the ones who are going to supply you with opportunities to work out the sun. And now is the time to do it. Now, while Uranus was in Aries, this is a part of this episode I always like to say. While Uranus was in Aries, it was in your 6th house. You may have found that you spend wasted energy on trying to cultivate the perfectly disciplined routine of... So this is while Uranus was in Aries. You might have wanted to get a perfect, disciplined routine of checks, little objectives, little goals, habits, and emotional purging. And you validate your usefulness and constant loyalty to your contacts this way because you're a Scorpio. You discipline yourself, your own energy field, and show usefulness. You fasten your business partnerships by them giving you goals and you completing those goals. And your partner might not even be that dedicated to it, but you're showing through your constant, consistent actions that you are dedicated to it. Now, if your partner is following through on their part and it's constructive for you, there's no reason for you to change things around. Although you might be finding now that you're using the 6th house energy throughout Uranus and Aries. Maybe it wasn't a big deal. You were just building, you had the sense that you needed to discipline yourself, do a little bit of self-cleaning since 2011. Clean house, clean up your habits, clean up your health, your physical health, your diet. Do the things that are going to get you disciplined to take over the world, right? And it's because it's all of these things that are now building towards Taurus. Aries is particularly important to Scorpio because it's also ruled by Mars. So throughout this Uranus and Aries period, you may have been finding that you've been trying to exact a perfect schedule and to put a perfectly disciplined amount of work into something. And you might find that you can't do anything glorious on your own, right? Because that was when Uranus was in Aries, in the 6th house. Now that Uranus is coming into Taurus, you're seeing and feeling and intuiting that all of this personal routine and habit functioning is a waste if you can't align it if no one feels that you are aligning it to a partnership, because then it's wasted. How good is it really for you to do that if you're just doing it for yourself? You might as well just be jerking off in front of a mirror and for no one to be able to be seeing it, or seeing it. I mean, it's like singing a brilliantly orchestrated concerto, built with perfect timbre, expressed with perfect timbre, written to the diligent detail, and then having a little symphony to yourself in your bathroom with the door closed and nobody hearing it. It's like, how amazing is your ability to hold that discipline and to organize and maneuver little moments if you don't have someone else involved in it, if no one sees it. You're going to find throughout this period that it was almost wasteful, but you still built on it, and that's good, especially if you have a good, strong Mars. Then you built on it. But now you can take the discipline that you've reined into yourself and show that you can use this in any kind of business partnership. And you're going to attract business partnerships because Uranus is in Taurus right now. Different types of business partnerships, different ways of relating to the business partnerships you already have. And you can take on your intuition of how to relate in a new, informed, powerful way with all these relationships, in all these relationships, if you are willing to have some discretion with communicating to your partners, and feeling like you're worth something in your relationships. Showing using this Mars, showing using your skills, showing using your constant validation of the partnership that my new way of approaching and relating in relationship is worth it. Because look at all this effort that I'll do. I will put in this effort and I'll continue to. And, Scorpio is always served well when they make a promise and then they deliver. And then this fastens this trust and security for both of them. You need to start telling people that if you want to continue relating with them in the way that you have and that you do, that you need to be able to ask for the space to confront the stagnant ways in which you've been relating all this time. And if you can do that, communicate these things, nothing even needs to change. Uranus doesn't necessarily need to blow up everything that you've been building into smithereens if you don't want it to. But it is going to force you to question the nature of it all. And the only way that this questioning won't drive you crazy and end your relationships abruptly is if you don't communicate. It's if you don't demand, Scorpio, my friend. Use your constant little routine efforts of Aries in the 6th to express why you should demand to your partner to at least make the space to communicate about the possibility that you can approach your relationship in a different way. If your partner doesn't make that space for you, it's Uranus and Taurus. You can always just tell them to kick to the curb if they don't want to comply. Maybe that's a little too Scorpio, but the point is that now is an opportunity where if you find your partners aren't relating this way and allowing you to build on this self-worth and self-confidence, and even to make new business partnership contracts, to be even just, if you've got a girlfriend or a boyfriend who gets jealous when you talk with that new friend who's really excited about the field of work that you love so much, your son, your whatever, if your partner gets jealous that you're associating with them, maybe it's security issues between you and your partner that you need to work out, right? These are the kind of things which, of course, are going to provide a platform. Your relationships, partnerships, the hands that you shake behind closed doors is the 10th house from your sun, from Leo. It's the 10th house from your 10th house. And they will help you to provide a constant place with which you can deeply expand your ambitions as a Scorpio in a way that you've never had before. Now's the time. Take advantage of it. Have fun with it. It's important to you, again, because this is an angular house. So if you have important things going on in your 7th house, if Venus is important to you, and if Uranus is important to you. Don't waste it. But don't get too urgent about it. Check your local astrologer. Ask them about the opportunities this time can bring you, but also ask them about the placement of your Venus. If it's well placed, you might not need to ditch your marriage partner to the curb. You might just need to beg the question of whether you can relate better with them, to them, intimately, through trust. This is what Uranus and Taurus is bringing for everybody right now, but specifically for you, because it's your 7th house. So, I hope you enjoyed that. I'm Dustin Cormier for How to Rock Astrology. Check me out on more of my stuff. Like, subscribe, comment. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought about this. This episode turned out good because I'm a Scorpio, so anything that I do with Scorpio tends to turn out good. Let me know if you agree. I'm Dustin Cormier for How to Rock Astrology. Thanks for watching, folks.